Chapter 577. Mike Guy's body was wrapped in flames. Due to the constant movement of his arms and legs, his body was slowly floating in the air without any signs of sagging. Looking at Mike Guy's body wrapped in flames, Kisame Ghost Shark's eyes flashed with a trace of graveness and doubt. Mike Guy is one of the few famous ninjas of Wood Leaf, and there is actually a lot of information about him in the ninja world. And the most important thing about this information circulating in the ninja world is that Mike Guy, as a ninja, doesn't use any ninjutsu, and the amount of chakra in his body is very small. He has never used any ninjutsu or genjutsu. Kisame believed this before, but at this moment, Mike Guy's body was shrouded in flames. If he wanted to find a reasonable explanation, it could only be fire release ninjutsu. Following common sense, Kisame increased the output of his chakra. The dried persimmon ghost shark had been using the water tooth bullets to seal off Mike Guy's range of movement. Now, under the dried persimmon ghost shark's control, the water tooth bullets merged together. Making a few more hand seals, Kisame completed a ninjutsu derived from the water fong jutsu. Water style, giant water tooth. Originally, the water tooth bullets were formed from water to form a shuttle that was about 20 to 30 centimeters long to attack the enemy. Instead of water tooth, it was more like a water shuttle. But now, under the control of the Kismet ghost shark, these water streams were condensing together, forming a huge shark mouth shape. Even the tall and sturdy body of the Kismet ghost shark seemed a little tiny in front of it. After locking onto Mike Guy's position, Kisame adjusted the attacking direction of the giant water tooth with his chakra, then gave a loud growl. Go! Following the dried persimmon ghost shark's roar, its huge shark teeth directly rushed towards Mike Guy. Floating in the air, Mike Guy couldn't help but see the extraordinarily powerful giant water tooth, which was being controlled by Kisame ghost shark, rushing towards him. However, at the moment, Mike Guy didn't feel any threat at all. Let it burn. My body, my blood, my youth, ah! Mike Guy's legs exerted force, and a sonic boom was produced behind him. His body seemed to be stepping on the ground as he rushed towards the direction of the giant water tooth. At this moment, Kisame, Jizuya attack, and Mike Guy were in a straight line. Either Mike Guy would be swallowed by Jizuya attack and Kisame would win, or Mike Guy would break Jizuya attack and attack Kisame, who would be unable to move due to the continuous chakra output from Jizuya attack. Life and death, victory and defeat would be decided in this move. Rare beast, go to hell. Shark face, let me defeat you. Although there was a huge water ninjutsu between Mike Guy and Kisame, whether it was Mike Guy or Kisame, at this moment, their gazes directly penetrated the giant water tooth and fell on each other's body. Kisame, and Mike Guy roared at the same time. Whether it was the speed of Mike Guy's punches and kicks or the output of chakra, both of them had reached the peak state. At this moment, Kisame didn't care whether he could return to Akatsuki with so many Hachibi chakra, or whether he would be caught by Naruto and Killer Bee, and then face the risk of being defeated. At this moment, what Kisame wanted was only victory. After defeating Mike Guy, he would get the taste of victory that would make him infinitely satisfied. Because he attacked from above, plus the thrust brought by the previous kick, Mike Guy's body fell very fast. Almost in the blink of an eye, Mike Guy's figure directly rushed into the huge shark mouth of giant water tooth. Seeing Mike Guy directly rushed into his ninjutsu, Kisame didn't hesitate to increase the power of chakra above his limit. The huge shark mouth of giant water tooth directly closed, and directly bit Mike Guy, who rushed in. Through the not-so-transparent water, it was obvious that Mike Guy's body was constantly being suppressed by the water pressure from all directions. But Mike Guy didn't seem to have lost the ability to fight. The best proof of this point was that the flame burning on Mike Guy's body didn't show any sign of extinguishing at this moment. With the passage of time, the orange flame on Mike Guy's body didn't get extinguished by the water like ordinary flames. Instead, it became more and more fierce. The water wasn't so transparent to begin with. At this moment, it became completely impossible to see the internal situation. Only some white things began to spread from the place where Mike Guy was just now to all directions. Gradually, the giant water fang's tightly shut shark mouth began to change shape. Bubbles began to appear on the surface of the giant water tooth. Felt like the giant water tooth was being boiled. No, it didn't feel like it. At this moment, giant water tooth was really boiling. The shape of giant water tooth's shark mouth became more and more exaggerated. In the end, it completely turned into a shapeless, constantly boiling, and completely white water ball. Ah! Mike Guy's almost iconic strange roar directly rushed out of the water ball and directly passed into Kisame's ears. Originally, Kisame thought that Mike Guy would lose the ability to fight because of the lack of oxygen after being trapped in the water ball. As long as Mike Guy didn't come out of the water ball, Kisame had a chance to win. But at this moment, after hearing Mike Guy's roar, Kisame knew that his expectation was actually a failure. Water was mainly composed of hydrogen and oxygen. When heated to a certain extent, it would decompose into hydrogen and oxygen was an important gas to ignite flames. After being enveloped by the giant water tooth, Mike Guy maintained a high speed of movement with his arms and legs to form a vacuum space, allowing the flames on his body to burn for a short period of time. The powerful heat of the flames also constantly vaporized the water around Mike Guy. The vaporized water also fed the flames. After a series of chain reactions, the flames wrapped around Mike Guy's body became more and more turbulent. If one had to find an adjective, perhaps there were only 4 words: Nirvana rebirth. Chapter 578. Pa! Because of the strong air pressure inside his body, the huge water ball wrapped in chakra was like a balloon meeting a sharp object and directly exploded. The moment the water ball exploded, a large flame burst out from it. The miraculous scene of water and fire merging appeared in front of the Kismet ghost shark and Mike K. However, neither of them were in the mood to appreciate such a miraculous scene. The shark-like eyes of the Kismet ghost shark were now filled with an orange glow. This wasn't because the Kismet ghost shark's eyes were bloodshot or something else. Instead, it was because a ball of flame was rushing towards the Kismet ghost shark. The flame was very fast, and Kismet ghost shark's body was temporarily paralyzed because of the chakra that exceeded his limit. There was no way for him to dodge this flame. The orange flame directly hit the Kismet ghost shark's body. The burning sensation was transmitted directly to the Kismet ghost shark's brain. Perhaps it was because its body had fused with the shark's flesh. The Kismet ghost shark's sense of pain had become much sharper. Its steel-like will was completely unable to resist the burning sensation coming from its skin. Ah! A mournful cry came out of Kismet ghost shark's mouth. But such a cry was not enough to stop Mike Guy's action. Like a ghost, Mike Guy's figure appeared directly in front of Kismet ghost shark. Without the slightest hesitation, Mike Guy clenched his hand into a fist, and after a short period of power, he directly punched Kismet ghost shark's abdomen with his fist. Its dark blue, shark-like skin couldn't do any harm to Mike K's powerful fist at all. Like a sharp scalpel, Mike K's fist directly pierced into the Kisan ghost shark's abdomen. Because his internal organs were injured, Kismet ghost shark's shark-like face directly twitched, and his mouth with sharp teeth spat out a large mouthful of blood. The hot blood directly poured on Mike Guy's arm that was deeply stabbed into Kismet ghost shark's abdomen. The chakra flame that appeared on Mike Guy's body because of the opening of the 8 inner hidden gates slowly extinguished at this moment. The powerful aura emanating from Mike Guy's body disappeared without a trace the moment the chakra flames disappeared. The floating hair, the white eyeballs, and the red skin all over his body also disappeared in an instant. Mike Guy looked at Kismet ghost shark that he had attacked, and his eyes flashed with deep fatigue. He forcefully pulled out his hand from Kismet ghost shark's abdomen. Kismet ghost shark's body, which had become somewhat weak due to the injury, directly fell to the ground. The moment Kismet ghost shark fell to the ground, the shark's muscles and Kismet ghost shark separated. The size of the shark's muscles seemed to have become slightly smaller due to the consumption of a large amount of chakra, and the body of Kismet ghost shark at this moment exuded a very unnatural pale color, without even a trace of blood. In the end, Mike Guy still held back. After all, although the two sides had spoken a lot of harsh words during the battle, Might Guy had never said that he would kill Kismet Ghost Shark from the beginning to the end of the battle. People need close friends in their life, but they also need strong enemies. Although Might Guy has always said that Hatake Kakashi is his lifelong enemy, but after all, Might Guy and Hatake Kakashi are ninjas from the same ninja village. To a large extent, Might Guy and Hatake Kakashi can be said to be close friends who compete with each other and promote each other. Kismet Ghost Shark is different. Kismet Ghost Shark is a member of Akatsuki, which is completely hostile to Woodleaf Village. From the moment they met Kismet Ghost Shark, Might Guy and Kismet Ghost Shark were destined to be enemies. As the friction between Akatsuki and Konoha increased, Might Guy and Kisame appeared again and again, as if it was their destiny. Fighting is the best way to understand a person. So although Kismet Ghost Shark and Might Guy didn't say it clearly, but there is a faint feeling of mutual appreciation between them. At the moment when Might Guy was accumulating his power while attacking Kisame, Might Guy kept reminding himself that he must not hold back, he must not hold back. However, when his fist was about to land on Kisame's body, his fist, which was originally aimed at Kisame's heart, involuntarily moved towards Kisame's waist and abdomen. Intentionally or unintentionally, Might Guy's fist even avoided the fatal part of his abdomen. Why don't you kill me? At this moment, although Kismet Ghost Shark's eyes have become slightly lifeless, but he still tried to look at Might Guy, as if he wanted to see more clearly the powerful man who defeated him. Hearing Kismet Ghost Shark's question, Might Guy's eyes also became absent-minded. Because Might Guy actually didn't know why he spared Kismet Ghost Shark's life. All of this seems to be his heart telling him that he didn't want Kismet Ghost Shark to die like this. Seeing the obvious lifeless struggle in Might Guy's eyes, Kisame Ghost Shark, who was lying on the ground, couldn't help but reveal a faint smile. Unlike the mocking smile he made before, at this moment, Kismet Ghost Shark's smile revealed infinite regret and envy. Konoha Village. Sure enough, they have cultivated a group of naive fools. Obviously such naivety is enough to be fatal in the man-eat-man ninja world. But why can't I help but feel a bit envious when I see the naivety in your heart? Kismet Ghost Shark suddenly thought of his former teammate Itachi Uchiha and the current actual leader of Akatsuki organization Uchiha Obito, and his eyes gently slid over Might Guy's body. Then Kismet Ghost Shark couldn't help but say, "If I was also born in Woodleaf Village, how good would it be? You and I would definitely become best friends." Chapter 579. Standing in front of Kismet Ghost Shark, Might K looked at Kismet Ghost Shark's face and listened to him murmuring. At the same time, the struggling look in Might K's eyes grew clearer. Disregarding the hostile relationship between the Kismet Ghost Shark and himself, Might Guy squatted down in front of the Kismet Ghost Shark and said, "Instead of being so envious, why don't you come back to Woodleaf with me? As long as you tell us everything, I believe that neither Hokage-sama nor anyone else will make things difficult for you. Under my care, even if you don't become a ninja, you can live a good life in Woodleaf. In fact, everything is still not too late, you can." Might K, who had always been extremely careless, was now earnestly preaching to his enemy, the Kismet Ghost Shark. Moreover, judging from Might K's eyes that were brimming with concern, it was clear that Might K truly hoped that Shien could help the Kismet Ghost Shark, or even spare its life. The Kismet Ghost Shark didn't interrupt Might K, but Might K didn't say anything after half of his sentence. Michael K wasn't a stupid person. In fact, in many cases, Michael K was intelligent and full of his own style. When Might Guy first persuaded Kisame, it was indeed out of his sincerity. But the more he talked, the more he realized how unrealistic his promise to Kisame was. Although he didn't get involved in politics, Might Guy was one of Woodleaf's top jonin after all. Many of Woodleaf's dark side were exposed in front of Might Guy. If he really brought the dried persimmon ghost shark back alive, what kind of treatment would that dried persimmon ghost shark receive? Although he didn't directly see Woodleaf's interrogation department and the various interrogation methods of Woodleaf's Umbu, Might Guy still heard a lot of information from Kakashi, who had experience in the Umbu. To be honest, even if Kisame has the strength of a Kage level or even higher, Once he falls into the hands of Woodleaf's interrogation department and Woodleaf's umbu, being able to keep his mind is already the best state for him. One must know that whether it is Woodleaf's interrogation department or Woodleaf's umbu, there are many Yamanaka clansmen who are proficient in spiritual manipulation and exploration. Forcibly invading the enemy's brain and obtaining information from their memories is the Yamanaka clan's specialty, and it is also the ultimate method of the umbu and the Woodleaf's umbu. So, you are really naive. Looking at Mike Guy, who didn't say anything, Kisame Ghost Shark grinned widely. He didn't feel any sadness at the end of the road. Instead, he felt a different sense of relief. I'm a ninja from the Mist Village. From childhood to adulthood, my life was full of betrayal and killing each other. Every friend of mine could become an enemy who wants to kill me in the next moment. Although when I grew up, I understood that this kind of situation actually only exists in the Mist Village. But as I came into contact with more and more people, I found that there is no difference between the cruelty of the Mist Village and the cruelty of the ninja world. Everyone can still put you to death, and even compared to the Mist Village, there are countless ways to kill people in the ninja world. When I realized this, a part of my heart had already collapsed. At that time, I met the current leader of the Akatsuki. He didn't hide anything and told me about his plan. It's funny to say that I'm not the strongest person in the Akatsuki, but I'm the one who is closest to the biggest plan of the Akatsuki. Kisame's face showed a touch of powerlessness, and then he said to Mike Guy, although I have been talking about my yearning for Konoha, in fact, you and I both know that Konoha's so-called Pearl of the Shinobi world is actually just a means to boast. Woodleaf is no less dirty and dark than any other place. I'm not only disappointed in the Mist Village, the ninja world, and the ninja world, I'm disappointed in the whole world. I'm not a selfless person, and I don't want to be a messenger of justice to protect the lives of others. I'm an extremely selfish egoist. Since the world is so disgusting to me, and an opportunity to change the whole world is in front of me, then I will naturally give it a try. I don't care what kind of scene it will be in the infinite Tsukuyami world. I'm just disappointed in the current ninja world. It's quite interesting to help the ninja world change its face. You don't have to say so much, and you don't have to worry about it. In fact, your choice now is very simple: either kill me here, or take me to the Woodleaf interrogation department or Woodleaf umbu so that they can get more information from my brain. The Kismet Ghost Shark raised his head and exposed his neck to Mike K. He said to Mike K fearlessly, and even somewhat expectantly, "Don't worry, I'll give you such an opportunity. Whether you kill me or take me back to the Woodleaf, it's all up to you." Looking at Kisame, who completely gave up resistance in front of him, Mike Guy's iron-blooded heart, which was tempered in his long ninja career, couldn't help but loosen. He's not Kisame, and he hasn't experienced what Kisame has experienced. However, Mike Guy could still taste the 3 flavors from the dried persimmon ghost shark's words, which sounded like his last words. If he is really from the perspective of a Woodleaf ninja, bringing Kisame back to the Woodleaf can undoubtedly bring more useful information to the Woodleaf. But as a warrior, in the face of such an enemy, sending him to the Woodleaf interrogation department or umbu is a great disrespect and humiliation to him. At this moment, Mike Guy showed a rare hesitation. If this situation must be described, it's a conflict between Mike Guy's warrior heart and his sense of responsibility as a ninja. Just when Mike Guy was hesitating, 2 huge chakras suddenly came from afar. Almost in an instant, the hesitation in Mike Guy's heart directly disappeared. Without any hesitation, he hacked his palm onto the Kismet Ghost Shark's neck like a knife. In an instant, a tremendous force crushed the Kismet Ghost Shark's throat. Then he kicked the Kismet Ghost Shark, who was lying on the ground. The lifeless body of Kisame fell directly into the lake created by Kisame's water release and disappeared without a trace. Then, Mike K turned his eyes towards the place where the 2 huge chakras were emitted. Chapter 580. Mike K? Mr. Bushy Eyebrows. When Naruto and Killer Bee saw that the Sharingan had transformed into Kisame, they immediately sped up and wanted to catch up with the Kisame to figure out what was going on. However, after the Kisame regained its consciousness and took control of its body, It immediately escaped into the depths of the forest. Naruto, who had mastered the Nine-Tails chakra mode, could actually use this new power to sense any familiar chakra source, but after all, he had just mastered this power, so he was not very familiar with it. Although the Nine-Tails in Naruto's body had reached an agreement with Naruto, to a large extent, the Nine-Tails was still observing Naruto and would not give too much help to Naruto. The Kismet ghost shark's soaring body structure and its deliberately suppressed chakra aura made it difficult for Naruto to find its whereabouts. Under the influence of these various factors, Naruto and Killer Bee could not catch up with the fleeing Kismet ghost shark. After Naruto and Killer Bee tracked the Kismet ghost shark for a long time, Naruto, who had finally entered the Nine-Tails chakra mode, sensed a huge chakra wave coming from a forest a little far away from him. Naruto and Killer Bee finally realized that they had been deliberately misled by the Kismet ghost shark. Although they were very surprised that the seemingly careless Kismet ghost shark would use such a method to mislead them, what was done could not be undone. No matter how much they regretted it, it was meaningless. Although his reaction was a little slow, Naruto could clearly sense a very familiar aura in the place where the huge chakra burst out. After exchanging a glance with Killer Bee, Naruto and Killer Bee immediately rushed towards the place where the huge chakra burst out. Because of the distance, although Killer Bee and Naruto had pushed their speed to the extreme, it still took a certain amount of time to reach the place where the battle took place. To Naruto and Killer Bee's surprise, the battle with such a powerful chakra did not end quickly. On the contrary, it became more and more intense. Finally, after a rapid trek, Naruto and Killer Bee finally came out of the dense forest and saw Mike K leaning against a tree, looking very tired. Naruto came to Mike K's side and helped the pale-looking Mike K up. Naruto and Mike K's direct disciple Lee Luoku were very familiar with each other. Naturally, he had seen Lee in a weakened state after using the 8 gates. Although the current Mike guy was different from Li Shaoli when he left the 8 inner hidden gates, he wasn't too far away from it. Teacher, thick eyebrows. Where is this? Naruto just opened his mouth to ask Mike Guy what happened here. Killer Bee, who just separated from Naruto to explore the surroundings, took the lead and said to Naruto, "That's right. Yo, the water here is very strange. It seems to be a kind of water escape. Shark face, strong water escape. The one fighting here is Shark Face." Oh yeah. Hearing Killer Bee's strange tone, Mike K, who was helped up by Naruto, couldn't help but frown. Is Kisan Ghost Shark? Mike K, who has always been very bad at remembering other people's names, actually said the name of Kisan Ghost Shark directly at this moment. This kind of situation is very rare for people who are familiar with Mike K. But neither Naruto nor Killer Bee knew that Mike K had such a characteristic, so they didn't think much of it. I came here to check on Naruto's training under the order of the 4th Hokage Wave Wind Watergate. On the way here, I encountered Kisan Ghost Shark. Kisan Ghost Shark suddenly attacked me. In self-defense, a fight broke out between me and Kisan Ghost Shark. With that said, Mike Guy raised his slightly weak arm and pointed at Naruto and Shibito. The surrounding environment was severely damaged. Everything here is proof of my battle with Kisan Ghost Shark. In the battle, because I was at a disadvantage, I used a powerful forbidden technique to kill Kisan Ghost Shark here. However, after using the forbidden technique, my body will enter a period of weakness. Therefore, the corpse of the Kismet Ghost Shark was swept into this lake that he created himself. In order to fight with me, Kisan Ghost Shark summoned a lot of sharks in this lake. Although Kisan Ghost Shark is dead now, there are still shark-summoning beasts that haven't exhausted chakra swimming in it. Now I can't guarantee whether Kisan Ghost Shark's body is intact or not. Under normal circumstances, all conflicts that occur in the process of a ninja's mission should be written in a report and directly handed to their ninja village after the mission, and it is not allowed to be disclosed to anyone. But now, Mike K directly told Naruto and Killer Bee about his battle. Such behavior is actually not allowed, but Mike K's temperament is simply too unpredictable for people in the ninja world, and Naruto and Killer Bee are actually people who don't care about trifles, so naturally they didn't question Mike K's words. After handing over Mike K to Killer Bee, Naruto slowly walked to the side of the lake that Kisan Ghost Shark created with his water release. The golden chakra flame that had been extinguished on Naruto's body burned again at this moment. Naruto slowly stretched out his right hand in front of himself and opened his palm. The golden chakra flame was constantly condensing in it. Gradually, a golden flame lotus with red color appeared directly in Naruto's palm. Carefully observing the lake with his eyes and constantly feeling the faint chakra aura from Kisan Ghost Shark's lifeless body in the lake, Naruto gently raised his palm, and the flame lotus fell directly into the lake. Similar to the method Mike K used to deal with Kisan Ghost Shark, Naruto used fire to restrain the water release at this moment. The flame lotus that Naruto threw out at this moment was actually a kind of compression of the Nine Tails chakra, but the Nine Tails chakra itself was full of blazing aura, so it was not worth mentioning to evaporate some water. The moment the flame lotus fell into the lake, the whole lake began to evaporate rapidly. Chapter 581. Although it's just a small flame that's not even as big as a fist, the huge amount of heat it contains is undoubtedly revealed in the confrontation with the water. The moment the yellow flame lotus with a tinge of red fell into the lake, the entire lake began to vaporize rapidly. However, after the water was vaporized into mist, it instantly disappeared under the attack of the huge heat, just like ice and snow meeting the scorching sun. Such a miraculous thing appeared directly in front of Mike Guy. Mike Guy has been a ninja in the ninja world for so many years. Naturally, he has seen a lot of powerful ninjas. Even the most proficient ninja in the ninja world, the Uchiha clan, is a member of Woodleaf. But even though he has seen so many powerful ninjas, the fire release they used is still within the scope of Mike Guy's understanding. Looking at the flame lotus that Naruto used just now, those powerful fire release ninjutsu in the eyes of Mike Guy are as small as the small flame in the stove when cooking. In the blink of an eye, the lake that originally didn't look small has turned into a huge pit at this moment, and even the ground at the bottom of the lake has cracked inch by inch under the heat of the flame lotus that Naruto just used. Standing on the edge of the pit, Naruto jumped directly to the bottom of the lake. Step by step, he walked on the cracked ground. At the feet of Naruto, there are shark corpses that have lost their lives because of the high temperature of the flame lotus, but Naruto didn't care about these. Instead, he continued to walk towards the center of the cracked ground. The closer he got to the center of the land, the more shark corpses there are. In the middle of these shark carcasses, there was a carcass that had lost its head and limbs. Its internal organs spilled out and flowed all over the place. Although he can't immediately confirm his identity with a little bluish skin, Naruto knows that this person is Kisame. After all, as a Woodleaf ninja, Naruto still trusts Mike Guy, who has always been very loyal and honest. Originally, Naruto thought about whether he could find a relatively intact corpse of Kisame and bring it back to the Woodleaf so that the Yamanaka clan can read some information from the brain of Kisame. But now that the corpse of Kisame has been gnawed by those sharks, Naruto's idea of obtaining information from the corpse of Kisame has faded a lot. In fact, Kisame and Naruto are quite related. When Naruto was still weak, Kisame and Itachi Uchiha appeared in front of Naruto more than once. Attacking Naruto and Jiraiya wanted to capture the Nine Tails. Although he didn't say it, in fact, Kisame was a shadow in Naruto's heart. Such an existence that had threatened his life countless times has now become so miserable. Naruto didn't know what kind of emotion was in his heart. Was it relief or regret? Naruto couldn't explain it now. Alas? Naruto looked at the miserable Kisame in front of him, and after a long sigh, the chakra flame on his body suddenly surged. A giant chakra hand was directly produced behind Naruto. The giant hand slightly turned into a hook and drew a line on the ground, and a huge pit directly appeared on the ground. Once again condensing a smaller chakra hand behind him, Naruto directly put the remains of Kisame on the ground and the several sharks lying on the ground beside it into the pit. Kisame, although there have been many conflicts between you and me, I have to say that you are still a respectable powerhouse. I can't bear to see your body left here to be battered by the wind and rain, and to be pecked by the birds, so I can only build a simple tomb for you. I hope that you won't go astray in the other world and help the evildoers do evil. After saying that, Naruto controlled the larger chakra hand to come to the pit where he had just placed the remains of Kisame, and removed the chakra hand. The soil that was originally in the giant hand directly fell down, burying the remains of Kisame and the several sharks. After doing all this, Naruto jumped directly, flew high, and came to the side of Killer Bee and Might Guy. "Sorry for making you wait for so long." Looking at Killer Bee and Might Guy, Naruto said to them apologetically. But Killer Bee and Might Guy directly shook their heads, indicating that Naruto didn't mind. Might Guy said to Naruto with a look of emotion on his face, "Although we have different standpoints, I have to say that Kisame is indeed a respectable opponent. You did the right thing. Respecting the opponent is also respecting yourself." Sure enough, this is youth. Killer Bee standing on the side didn't say anything, but from his expression, he agreed with Might Guy's words. Now for Naruto and the others, time was very tight. After all, the battle was imminent. No one could guarantee that during the period when Kisame left the sight of Naruto and was met by Might Guy, or even when he faked his death and hid in the shark skin, he didn't pass on any important information. "Yo, I'll go back to Kumo-Shinobu village first and pass on Shark Face's message. You guys go back to Woodleaf and actively prepare for war. The war is about to break out. We must seek victory." Oh yeah, Killer Bee was an impatient person. After saying his proposal to Naruto and Might Guy, he didn't wait for Naruto and Might Guy's response. He directly reached out and picked up the shark's skin that had been rubbing against his feet like a spoiled child. He jumped up a tree and disappeared after a few jumps. Although Killer Bee didn't ask for Naruto and Might Guy's opinion at this moment and directly left for Naruto and Might Guy, such a proposal was actually workable. After all, Naruto and Killer Bee came to the Land of Lightning to control the Nine Tails in his body. Now that their goal was achieved, there was naturally no reason to stay here. It was time to return to Woodleaf. For some reason, Naruto always had a feeling in his heart that the war was getting closer and closer. Chapter 582. In the headquarters of Blood-Robed Pavilion, Nangongja stood at the door of a room and waited. Nangongja has always maintained a very calm state, except in front of his family and people who were very close to him. But at this moment, in front of Nangongja, the Altar Lord of Five Elements Altar, including Mishiro, Nangongja's hand couldn't help but stroke the sword in his hand. Not only Nangongja, in fact, everyone present, from the old man Aoki to the youngest Mishiro, was actually quite nervous, because everyone was waiting for the key to Blood-Robed Pavilion's breakthrough. A few days ago, Uchiha Sasuke and his father Uchiha Fugaku were invited to the headquarters of Blood-Robed Pavilion by Nangongja. The reason for inviting them was naturally not to take them to observe the Blood-Robed Pavilion, but to discuss with them before the most powerful eye recorded in Uchiha clan's records, Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, reappear in the world. Nangongja summoned almost all the disciples of Aoki Altar, who were most proficient in organ transplantation, to the headquarters of Blood-Robed Pavilion. The only reason for all these disciples to come back was that Nangongja hoped to improve the success rate of such eye transplantation. Today is the day when Uchiha Sasuke will receive the eye transplant. I hope everything goes well. Nangongja gently closed his eyes, his hand still involuntarily stroking the slightly rough hilt of the sword in his hand, and silently said such a sentence in his heart. In the battle of the Fourth Shinobi World War, Blood-Robed Pavilion under the leadership of Nangongja did not join the Akatsuki or any of the 5 great shinobi villages. Although it's not clear what kind of disadvantages such a choice will bring, Blood-Robed Pavilion avoided the situation of participating in the battle and suffering losses. But Blood-Robed Pavilion is different from ordinary forces. Blood-Robed Pavilion is second only to the 5 great shinobi villages, and to a certain extent, it can even compete with the Akatsuki that hasn't completely exposed its cards. The more powerful the force, the more scruples it will have. Akatsuki itself is hostile to Blood-Robed Pavilion. After all, Akatsuki wanted to annex Blood-Robed Pavilion before. Because of various circumstances, Nangongja didn't think that joining the 5 great shinobi villages was a good choice for Blood-Robed Pavilion. Therefore, Uchiha Sasuke, the most powerful eye in the shinobi world, besides Rinnegan, the Sharingan. After all, the Sharingan, the most powerful eye, is the Sharingan. Even the current actual leader of Akatsuki, who calls himself Uchiha Madara, actually only has Manjikyu Sharingan. If he can control Uchiha Sasuke, who has eternal Manjikyu Sharingan, in his hands, it is actually equivalent to controlling a big killing weapon. So, whether Sasuke's eye transplant is successful or not, in fact, it represents the most important gear of Nangong's plans. Creak. The sound of the wooden door being opened was so clear that it was transmitted to everyone's ears. One by one, the disciples of Blood-Robed Pavilion, wearing white clothes, came out of the room one after another. Although they were wearing masks on their faces, Nangongja could still feel the involuntary joy from them. It seems that it's a success? His heart, which had been hanging in the air, finally calmed down, and his hand that was constantly groping for the sword's hilt also slowly relaxed at this moment. No matter what kind of new abilities Uchiha Sasuke's eyes obtained after receiving the Sharingan transplant, Sasuke's original Katan, Kagetsuchi, Amaterasu, and Susanoo abilities will definitely be greatly improved. Unlimited eye power and more powerful dojutsu are enough to bear the important role in Nangong's plan. Looking at the opened wooden door, Uchiha Sasuke didn't come out. The altar lord standing behind Nangongja couldn't help but want to go in and take a look, but they were stopped by Nangongja. After a few years of cultivation, although the altar masters of the 5-element altars were almost all at the shadow tier, they were still different from Nangongja. At this moment, Nangongja could clearly feel that a kind of natural power began to gather in this room from all directions. If he had to describe why such a natural power appeared, Nangongja could only say that it was nature's praise for the appearance of eternal Manjikyu Sharingan. Finally, after a while, the turbulent natural energy fluctuations that were difficult to detect by people who weren't familiar with natural energy calmed down. A powerful aura came out of the room. The altar masters of 5 Elements Altar, who wanted to rush in to check on Sasuke's condition, also noticed this powerful aura. Almost in an instant, the roof of the room where Sasuke was sitting was directly broken, and the broken tiles and wooden blocks scattered directly in all directions. But at this moment, whether it was Nangongja or the other altar lords, they didn't care about the damage of the room, because at this moment, a huge purple figure directly rushed out of the room. The complete body was wrapped in Crow Tengu's armor, and the purple chakra flame was constantly burning on Susanoo's body. Such an indomitable giant was standing in front of everyone, and everyone could feel a huge pressure. Is this the power of eternal Manjikyu Sharingan? Looking at the people standing beside him who were trembling slightly, even the most powerful among them, Nangongja felt very obvious fear in his heart at this moment. If this Susanoo really started to attack, then each of his attacks would be powerful enough to cut off everything in the world. Splitting mountains and splitting rocks was almost a matter of waving his hand. Sure enough, the power of eternal Manjikyu Sharingan was indeed very powerful, and this was only using Uchiha Fugaku's eyes. If Sasuke's eyes were Itachi Uchiha's eyes, what would the situation be like? Nangongja couldn't help but think, but what Nangongja didn't know was that since Uchiha Fugaku awakened Manjikyu Sharingan, he almost didn't use its power, so such an eye could almost be regarded as a brand new Manjikyu Sharingan that hasn't been consumed, while Itachi's Sharingan has been exhausted in battle. In fact, Uchiha Fugaku's eyes could give Uchiha Sasuke more powerful power. Chapter 583. The powerful Susanoo didn't last long. It only lasted for 3 or 4 minutes. Originally, the reason why Uchiha Sasuke used Susanoo at this time was actually to test the power of his new eyes. After all, Susanoo itself is an organic fusion of the power of 2 Manjikyu Sharingan. As long as he can figure out how much the power of Susanoo has increased, the remaining power of dojutsu will be more or less clear. Now that he has figured it out, naturally, there is no need to continue to maintain such power. After all, this place belongs to Nangongja's Blood Cloak Pavilion, and the relationship between him and Sasuke is very good. There is really no need to show his muscles like this. After removing his Susanoo, Sasuke didn't come out of the room alone. Instead, he helped a person with gauze wrapped around his eyes out of the room. This person with gauze wrapped around his eyes is naturally the former patriarch of the Uchiha clan, Uchiha Sasuke's biological father, Uchiha Fugaku. Uchiha Fugaku gave his eyes to his child Sasuke, and he himself transplanted a pair of ordinary eyes with the help of Blood Cloak Pavilion. Compared to Sharingan, ordinary eyes are not so adaptable. So now Uchiha Fugaku's transplanted eyes have not recovered well, and it will take some time to adapt. Nangong-sensei. Helping Fugaku to walk in front of Nangong-ja, Sasuke bowed to Fugaku. Fugaku, who was supported by Sasuke to Nangong-ja, was more respectful than Sasuke. Although his eyes can't be used as a powerful ninja, Fugaku can easily perceive Nangong-ja's position, and directly bowed to Nangong-ja and said, "Greetings, Your Excellency." Nangong-ja didn't hesitate when he saw Fugaku bowing to him. He strode to Fugaku's front and used his hand to support Fugaku's arm. Nangong-ja then said to Fugaku with a bit of shame and admiration, "Brother Fugaku, Brother Fugaku, Brother Fugaku. You don't have to be so polite, Mr. Fugaku. I should be the one bowing to you. This time, the Blood Garment Pavilion let your family down and made you make such a big sacrifice. This is what the Blood Garment Pavilion and I owe you. This is not something that can be erased with a few words of thanks. No matter what, our Blood Garment Pavilion will maintain the closest relationship with Sir Fugaku's family." Fugaku had always said that he wasn't looking forward to the revival of his family. He had even stayed in the Lion Clan space like a hermit all these years to accompany his family. But Nangong-ja knew that in Fugaku's heart, he still had the idea of reviving the Uchiha clan again. The bloodline of the Uchiha clan is very overbearing. Even if there is only a part of the Uchiha clan's bloodline, it is very likely to invade other bloodlines outside the Uchiha clan. Moreover, this kind of overbearing bloodline will continue to increase with the strength of the people who carry the bloodline of the Uchiha clan. As long as the Uchiha clan can once again stand firm in the shinobi world, it will not be difficult for them to spread their bloodline and revive the family. And after experiencing such a situation of the destruction of the Uchiha clan, the arrogance of the people who have always been in the Uchiha clan will certainly be reduced a lot. At least, it will not be as obvious and inflexible as it was in the Woodleaf village. And all of this needs to rely on the Blood-Robed Pavilion, or rather, the Blood-Robed Pavilion that is really standing firm in the shinobi world. So what Nangong-ja said now is actually a promise to Uchiha Fugaku. Since you can do so much for the Blood-Robed Pavilion, then the Blood-Robed Pavilion will naturally not treat you badly, even if you have done so much for your son. Thank you, Sama. This time, Fugaku finally didn't hide his inner feelings. He didn't say that he had already seen through the affairs of the world and wasn't willing to step into the mortal world anymore. Instead, he directly thanked Nangong-ja. Nodding to Fugaku, Nangong-ja then looked at Uchiha Sasuke, who was standing beside him. At this moment, Sasuke's eyes still maintained his eternal Mangekyo form, which was different from the previous appearance of a hexagram. Whether it was Fugaku's pinwheel or Sasuke's hexagram, they both appeared in Sasuke's eyes after a certain degree of deformation and overlap. Nangong-ja's spiritual strength is very strong. Even if he directly looked at the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan like this, he didn't suffer too much from it. On the contrary, Sasuke was very surprised that Nangong-ja could be completely unaffected by his eyes. After all, his eyes can be said to be the ultimate evolution of the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. Even when he looked at Nangong-ja just now, Sasuke quietly used the charm eye ability of the Sharingan itself. But even so, Nangong-ja's eyes were still clear at this moment. The stronger he is, the more he can't see through this man. This was the case in the past, and it's the same now. Even if he has always maintained a growth rate that ordinary people can't reach, and has also obtained various opportunities, but Nangong-ja is still the same as when he was a child, steadily leaving him behind. Sasuke, this time it's hard for you. Nangong-ja pressed his hand on Sasuke's shoulder, looking at the child who he almost watched grow up with a little apologetically. I'm sorry, as an adult, I put such a heavy burden on you. But don't worry, I will face the wind and waves after with you. Although the ninja world is a pool of water in front of us, even so, as long as we are willing, we can take the long sword in our hands and open up a new world with the hot blood in our chests. At this moment, Nangong-ja's eyes were burning with a raging flame. Nangong-ja believes that he can make this ninja world a little different. A ninja world that only has ninjas is too monotonous. With one hand tightly holding the sword in his hand, Nangongja stretched out his other hand and grabbed Sasuke's palm. With this, he took Sasuke step by step towards the central square of the Bloodcloak Pavilion, where all the forces of the Bloodcloak Pavilion that were about to participate in the war were waiting. Chapter 584. Holding Sasuke's hand, Nangongja walked step by step to the front of the many Bloodcloak Pavilion disciples. Unlike last time, there was no high platform in the central square this time. Without the high and mighty distance, Nangongja was not so unreachable for the Bloodcloak Pavilion disciples at this moment. Instead, he was much closer to them. Many disciples involuntarily began to kneel when they saw Nangongja walking over. After all, Nangongja was the supreme leader of the Bloodcloak Pavilion. When they saw their supreme leader, many people were actually in awe and reverence. Although the elite disciples of the Bloodcloak Pavilion were quite strong, they were far inferior to Nangongja. He released his hand that was originally holding the catastrophe sword, opened his palm, and raised it toward the sky in the void. The few Bloodcloak Pavilion disciples who were about to kneel were immediately wrapped up by Nangongja's internal strength, and their bodies involuntarily stood up straight. With a smile, Nangongja looked at the Bloodcloak Pavilion disciples who were about to kneel because of the awe in their hearts. He did not say anything. Instead, he used his internal strength to amplify his voice so that it could be heard by all the disciples in the square. Disciples of the Bloodcloak Pavilion. No, it should be brothers and sisters. I am Nangongja, your chief. Nangongja. Nangongja's voice, which was amplified by his internal strength, became extremely deep and melodious. It was as if it rushed straight into everyone's ears and even into their minds. The people of the Bloodcloak Pavilion had a certain level of worship for Nangongja. When they could clearly hear Nangongja's words, they all cheered. Chief! 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 Listening to the passionate cheers of the Bloodcloak Pavilion disciples, Nangongja did not release his domain, which was beyond common sense, to suppress the voices of these disciples like before. Instead, he allowed them to shout his name loudly. The voices of 10 people were enough to shock people, the voices of 100 people were enough to scare people away, and the voices of 1,000 people were enough to scatter the clouds in the sky. When nearly 1,000 people in the square shouted loudly, it was unknown whether it was an illusion or not, but the floating clouds in the sky seemed to have become thinner. Finally, after a few minutes, the disciples of the Bloodcloak Pavilion completely expressed their feelings through shouting, and the huge square finally regained some peace. When Nangongja saw that everyone had finished expressing their emotions, he stood in the crowd and said, I know that many of you admire and even fear me. Fear. After all, anyone with strength in this world is worthy of respect. This is the truest and most irrefutable truth in this world. Such an idea has almost become the truth recognized by everyone, but I don't think such a so-called truth is right. When a world only has respect for the strong, but has lost sympathy for the weak, such a world is a deformed world. And isn't the current ninja world such a world? Strong ninja villages bully weak ninja villages. Strong countries exploit weak countries. Strong ninjas bully weak civilians, countries, ninja villages. Ninjas, out of their own selfish interests, don't care about the life and death of the weak. In recent decades, 3 shinobi world wars have broken out, and now the 4th shinobi world war is about to break out. Although the current strength of our Bloodcloak Pavilion is not bad, after all, we are just an organization in the ninja world. Even in terms of strength and heritage, we are much worse than the 5 great ninja villages that have always occupied the leading position in the ninja world. But we are different from these ninjas who only know how to deceive. We internal strength cultivators pay attention to righteousness. Since we want to fight, we will fight fair and square. Since we want to fight, we have to fight openly. Since we want to change the world, we have to use the strongest posture to let everyone see our attitude. This time, our action is risky. Even I don't know how successful our action is. But I am not afraid, and I believe that you are not afraid either. For the current world, we have squeezed too much dissatisfaction. Since we are dissatisfied, we have to let others know how powerful our dissatisfaction is. In this battle, I will stand in front of each of you. If we really want to shed blood, then let me shed blood first. If we want to leave scars on our bodies, then let me get hurt first. If we really want to risk our lives, then let me sacrifice my life first. Letting go of Sasuke's hand, Nangongja began to take a step forward with every sentence. When Nangongja said this, Nangongja was actually standing in the center of the square. He slowly pulled out the heavenly calamity sword in his hand, and a sharp sword light was released from the heavenly calamity sword. Gradually, the sword light condensed into sword chi, and the black heavenly calamity sword seemed to shine brightly under the contrast of the sword chi. In this battle, my blood cloak pavilion may not be able to win the final victory. But I can tell you this. Our blood cloak pavilion will definitely become the most dazzling existence in the Fourth Shinobi World War, an existence that no one can ignore. Compared to chakra, internal strength is indeed a little bit lacking, but as long as we can show our strength in the Fourth Shinobi World War, it is equivalent to planting the most vigorous seed for the development of internal strength. We are not fighting for the resentment of the past, not for the status of the present. We are fighting for the future that we look forward to. There is nothing more fascinating than the future, because the future represents hope and all kinds of possibilities. As long as you are dissatisfied with the reality, then you will definitely yearn for the future. For the future, fight bloody battles. For the future, fight bloody battles. Nangongja's words were very true, and not so impassioned. Just like that, he directly told everyone about the dangers of this battle, and also told everyone about the possible sacrifices they might have to make. It was precisely because it was true that it was more convincing. Everyone saw the danger, but at the same time they also saw the hope in the danger. Chapter 585. When the 5 great shinobi villages and the Blood Cloak Pavilion were in full swing, they didn't know when the war would break out, but the leader of Akatsuki, Uchiha Obito, along with Kabuto and Black Zetsu, appeared outside the rain country. Towering stone peaks, pure white and fluffy clouds. All of this is very different from the natural environment of the rain country. It only belongs to one country in the shinobi world, the lightning country. After making up their mind not to confront the 5 great shinobi villages, Uchiha Obito and Black Zetsu have been discussing which place to attack first. After all, Akatsuki is different from the 5 great shinobi villages. After all, the allied shinobi forces formed by the 5 great shinobi villages don't belong to the same force, and when they carry out personnel transfer, it will cause a lot of movement. As long as Akatsuki wants to investigate, they can completely know the actions of the 5 great shinobi villages. Akatsuki itself is an organization hidden in the dark. As long as it can be carried out without being seen by others, Akatsuki will not put such actions on the surface. Now, the main forces of the Akatsuki against the allied forces of the 5 great ninja villages are 100,000 White Zetsu clones and 100,000 Edo Tensei clones. These 2 clones are very good at hiding their whereabouts and can directly integrate into the earth and trees. And the Edo Tensei itself is almost a psychic existence. As long as a short preparation time, they can directly start the battle. There are many targets that Akatsuki can attack. For example, the Land of Iron, which has lost its leader, and the Land of Wind, Sunagakure, which is relatively weak among the 5 great shinobi villages. These 2 targets can actually be regarded as the most suitable choice. To be able to create the greatest value with the least cost can be regarded as very cost-effective. But at this moment, Uchiha Obito still looked at the Land of Lightning Kumoshinobu, which is not weak among the 5 great shinobi villages. In fact, Obito also has his own thoughts about biting off such a hard bone first. The moment Kisame died, the seal that symbolized his life left in Akatsuki directly collapsed. But because of the seal created with the power of 6 paths, Uchiha Obito obtained the fragmented and partial memories of Kisame. Although the memory was intermittent, it clearly revealed a piece of information. 9 Tails Column Force, Vortex Naruto, and 8 Tails Column Force, Killer Bee are currently in Kumoshinobu village in the Lightning Country. Uchiha Obito's biggest goal was not to defeat the allied ninja army composed of the 5 great ninja villages, but to collect the power of the Hachibi and 9 Tails that he hasn't obtained yet, to resurrect the Jubi and make himself the column force of the Jubi. With the help of the Jubi's huge power, he projected the power of the Manjikyu Sharingan onto the moon, making the whole world fall into the infinite Tsukuyomi. Since his biggest goal was the Lightning Country, why didn't he come here? Taking a step back, even if there is a mistake in the memory fragment of Kisame, and Vortex Naruto is not in Kumoshinobu Village at the moment, once he really occupies Kumoshinobu Village, then he can use the whole Kumoshinobu Village as bait to lure the Hachibi Column Force, and even Nine-Tails Column Force and Vortex Naruto may also jump into the trap with him. With Killer Bee and Vortex Naruto's reckless and impulsive behavior, Uchiha Obito, who has deliberately studied these two people, is at least 70% sure that he can make these two impulsive Column Force come to him, and he can easily defeat them with the power of Geto Mazo. Moreover, although the resources of the Lightning Country are not very outstanding among the 5 major countries, but the Lightning Country has the most dangerous terrain among the 5 major countries. Although it is nothing for the Akatsuki's army of 100,000 white Zetsu, but for the ninjas of the allied ninja army of the 5 major countries, such an environment has a great restrictive ability. He could advance to attack, retreat to defend, a natural stronghold spirit. Are you ready? Obito turned his head and slowly looked at Black Zetsu and Kabuto standing on both sides behind him. Black Zetsu controls the army of 100,000 white Zetsu, and Kabuto controls the army of Edo Tensei. One has the advantage in numbers, and the other has the advantage in individual strength. What's more, Kabuto and Black Zetsu don't like each other, and a certain degree of jealousy between their subordinates is actually a good way to improve the combat power of the forces. Only through competition would a person be able to unleash a greater power. When Black Zetsu heard Obito's question, he didn't say anything, but nodded his head. Apparently he was ready to attack. Kabuto, who was standing on the other side, showed a completely different kind of activity from Black Zetsu. His eyes flashed with a bit of eagerness. Sama, I have prepared a big gift for the 4th Raikage of Kumoshinobu Village. I believe that he will be very surprised when the time comes. Looking at Kabuto's sly expression, Uchiha Obito knew that Kabuto must be planning something. But what's the matter? After all, it's his enemy who will suffer, and the more his enemy suffers, the happier he will be. Very good. After taking a deep look at Black Zetsu and Kabuto, Obito's eyes, which were composed of 3 Tomo Sharingan and Rinnegan behind the mask, flashed with a glimmer of light. His dream is about to be achieved. At this moment, Uchiha Obito couldn't help but feel a little excited, but no matter how excited he was, Obito forced himself to suppress his emotions, forcing himself to be rational and calm down. Black Zetsu, now control the White Zetsu army to sneak into Kumoshinobu Village. After the transformation, the 100,000 White Zetsu army began to disperse into Kumoshinobu Village, using spore technique to control the civilians and ninjas of Kumoshinobu Village. I'll give you 6 hours, report to me after you're done. In order to form his ideal Tsukuyomi world, he feels that he can't kill unscrupulously. Every ninja and civilian with independent will is an important material for Tsukuyomi world. The more such material is integrated into Tsukuyomi world, the more real and fuller Tsukuyomi world can become. Obito doesn't want his Rin to live in such an incomplete world, and by extracting any memories of Rin in the mind of the material, it is equivalent to recreating Rin's soul. What Obito wants is not only for Rin to appear in front of him again. What Obito wanted was to appear in front of him. The living, sometimes unruly, sometimes gentle Harano Rin that he deeply loved. Chapter 586. The Ninja Village is a violent organization. No matter how much so-called justice is used to modify their behavior, in the end, the Ninja Village is a mercenary organization that accepts money, threats, and even directly takes the lives of those who stand on their opposite side. Kumoshinobu Village is one of the 5 great ninja villages. Although its strength surpasses the general ninja village, in essence, Kumoshinobu Village is also such an organization. At this moment, it's midnight, when everyone is sleepy. Even the ninja of Kumoshinobu Village who has received complete ninja training, although he is strong, his body is still instinctively full of fatigue. Standing on the temporary watchtower that was built because of the upcoming war, a ninja of the Cloud Village looked at the dark space in front of him and almost couldn't help but yawn. And with the yawn, His eyes were covered with a thin layer of mist because of tiredness. This ninja of the Cloud Village has just been promoted to Chunin. This year, he just led an ordinary ninja team. Because of his strength and the qualifications of his students, this team has been performing some C-level and even D-level tasks since its establishment. It's already late at night, and his 3 students can't bear the fatigue of their bodies and doze off a little at the foot of the watchtower. And this Chunin himself is a very gentle and even slightly timid person. When he saw his students dozing off during the task, he didn't even lose his temper. This group of kids is really lazy. Today's task is really a bit hard. Next time I must teach these kids how to be a qualified ninja. Although there seems to be a bit of blame in his words, the eyes of this Chunin are extremely soft. It seems that there is a story behind it. Just when this Chunin was still looking at his team of young children, a familiar and strange smell passed to his nose. The slightly sweet and fishy smell was so pungent and fresh. This smell was very familiar to the Chunin, because this smell was the smell of blood. It was the smell of fresh blood that just flowed out of a human body. Not good. Perceiving that things are not good, the Chunin immediately walked towards his 3 students, ready to wake them up and then ring the alarm bell on the watchtower. But when he was only a few centimeters away from his students, a white figure suddenly rushed out from the floor of the watchtower. The floor of the watchtower is not made of mud but wood. What kind of escape technique can make people integrate into such a material? The Chunin doesn't know, and at this moment, he doesn't have time to figure out what is going on. The white figure directly pressed his palm on Kumo Chunin's neck at a speed that Kumo Chunin couldn't keep up with. Feeling a chill invading his neck, Kumo Chunin could only lose his strength and fell to the ground softly. The last thing the Chunin saw was a naked white figure with a strange face slowly walking towards his 3 disciples. Kumo Chunin wanted to move his body so that he could stand in front of his disciples to protect these young children. But he can't move at all, and the Chunin can clearly feel that the part of his neck that was just touched by this white figure has begun to take root and germinate at this moment. Finally, although the Chunin of the cloud used all kinds of methods to keep his mind awake, it was still inevitable that he fell into a deep sleep. What happened here is not an exception. It happened in every corner of the Kumo Shinobu village. The defensive forces of the Cloud Village are getting thinner and thinner under the layers of white Zetsu. After the outer defense circle was nibbled away, the white Zetsu troops also encountered the weakest and densest part of the Cloud Village, the civilian area. Like harvesting, the civilians and ninjas of the Cloud Village lost their fighting ability and even consciousness under the sudden attack of the white Zetsu. Many Jonins were even defeated by the attack of the white Zetsu clone, whose strength was greatly enhanced. Although this kind of fighting method is very effective, it is not a long-term solution. After all, the Cloud Village is one of the 5 great ninja villages of the ninja world. It is impossible for the Cloud Village to be completely wiped out. Even the reason why the Cloud Village hasn't reacted yet is because the white Zetsu didn't kill them, so there wasn't too much bloody smell. If the white Zetsu didn't use Spore Jutsu to control the Cloud Village and directly killed them, they would have been discovered by the Cloud Village's powerhouses. But even if they didn't kill anyone, the Cloud Village is still strong. How dare you? Who dares to ignore the majesty of the Cloud Village and invade our ninja village? The rough and majestic voice of the 4th Raikage spread directly in all directions, and his figure quickly appeared on the roof of the Raikage building in the Cloud Village. The Raiton chakra turned into chakra armor and attached to the body of the Raikage. At this moment, the Raikage was like the god of thunder, full of majesty that ordinary people can't reach. It seems that the Raikage's voice alarmed the people in the Cloud Village who originally turned off their lights, lit their candles, and the originally quiet Cloud Village became brightly lit. The reason why the White Zetsu army could create such a rare result before was mainly because of his magical jutsu and transformation jutsu. But now, under the watchful eyes of so many people, even if his transformation jutsu and escape jutsu are magical, what can he do? The 100,000 White Zetsu army immediately began to retreat when they realized that they had been exposed, and Black Zetsu, who was standing beside Uchiha Obito, also immediately reported to Obito. Under the attack of the White Zetsu army, at least 1/3 of the ninjas and at least 2/3 of the civilians in the Kumo Shinobu village have been controlled. When Obito heard the results of the White Zetsu army, his eyes flashed with a hint of understanding. Obito didn't expect to directly attack the Cloud Village with only the White Zetsu army. Now that the Cloud Village's combat power has been reduced by 1/3 with almost no loss on his side, it can be regarded as a remarkable result. Chapter 587. Very good. Hearing Black Zetsu's report, Uchiha Obito looked at Kabuto, who was standing behind him. Now it's your turn to play. Are you ready? Hearing Obito's question, Yakushi's eyes flashed with a glimmer of light. His slightly retro glasses also reflected a ray of light. Of course, I believe that the Cloud Village will like this gift I prepared for them very much. Kabuto made 4 hand seals one after another, and the chakra on Kabuto's body also surged quickly with the hand seals. When he felt that his chakra had condensed to a certain point, Kabuto put his palms together, squatted down, and pressed his palms on the ground. Boom! With the explosion of smoke, black runes spread out from Kabuto's palms. The runes seemed to have a life of their own and condensed into 3 formations on the ground, and at the moment when the formations were formed, 3 coffins slowly floated from the ground. In the middle of the coffins, there were characters that represented the identity of the reincarnated person: gold, silver, and lightning. Before Kabuto joined the Akatsuki, he had been using his Sage Mode body to sneak into various huge ninja villages to steal the DNA samples of the strong people who had passed away. The Cloud Village has always been outstanding in the ninja world, so naturally, there was no way to avoid the presence of Kabuto. Kabuto also obtained 3 DNA samples from the Cloud Village that he was very satisfied with. The strongest contradiction of the Cloud Village, the 2 lights of the Cloud Village. The 3 people who left their own thick ink in the history of the Cloud Village. Now is the time for you to open your eyes again. As Kabuto's voice fell, the lids of the 3 coffins were opened one after another, revealing the 3 strong people hidden in them: Cloud Ninja Ginkaku, Cloud Ninja Ginkaku, and Cloud Ninja Sandame Reikage AI. Oh, this is really the fresh air I haven't breathed in for a long time. Unlike the yellow spring, the air here is so sweet. Ginkaku was the first to recover his consciousness. He stepped out of the coffin and took a deep breath of the air with greed and fascination. With a cruel smile on his face, he said, "Such a wonderful thing. I can't help but want to destroy it all." Shaking his slightly dark golden hair, Ginkaku's face, which was very similar to Naruto's, was full of dangerous aura. Ha ha ha. Big brother is right. The more beautiful something is, the more wonderful it is to destroy it. Behind Ginkaku, a voice that was very similar to Ginkaku's voice sounded. However, unlike Goldhorn's voice, which was filled with violence, Silverhorn's voice sounded more sinister and cunning. At this moment, Ginkaku and Ginkaku stood together very tacitly, searching for the remnant of chakra in their bodies that was used to awaken them. Both of them turned their eyes to Kabuto, who was standing on the side with his whole body covered in a loose robe. "Are you the one who summoned us from the Yellow Springs?" Ginkaku looked at Kabuto with a bit of fierceness in his eyes, as if he didn't like the person who brought him back to the world. Ginkaku and Ginkaku were rebellious people. When they were alive, they even rebelled because they were dissatisfied with the end of the war in the Thunder and Fire Alliance. Although the rebellion was quelled, the Wood Leaf Village's second Hokage and Cloud Village's second Hokage were seriously injured because of them. It can be said that the rebellion of Ginkaku and Ginkaku brought the curtain to the end of the 2 eras of Cloud Village and Wood Leaf Village. The second Reikage AI, the founder of the Cloud Village in its heyday, and the second Hokage Senju Tobarama of Konoha, were defeated by him at the same time. No matter what kind of method was used, Jinjiao and Yinjiao were not simple people. And the more troublesome they were, the more they didn't want to be controlled by others. The 2 of them were able to be swallowed by the 9-tailed beast, but they were able to forcefully cause the 9-tailed beast to spit them out. Naturally, it was not difficult to imagine how difficult and unruly these 2 people were. Kabuto looked at Ginkaku and Ginkaku, who were staring at him, and felt the obvious murderous intent from them. In fact, he couldn't help but feel nervous. After all, in terms of fighting ability, he was indeed not as strong as Ginkaku and Ginkaku, who had been in the ninja world for many years. But Uchiha, Obito, and Black Zetsu, who were standing next to him, didn't seem to want to make a move at all. It seemed that they wanted to see how he was going to solve this problem. Although he was not as strong as Ginkaku and Ginkaku in terms of strength, their lives were in his hands. Suddenly, Kabuto formed a seal in his hands, and the chakra sealed in Ginkaku and Ginkaku's bodies by Kabuto was activated. He directly transferred his chakra to the key nodes in the Edo Tensei's body, and almost instantly, Ginkaku and Ginkaku's bodies were stopped. "You bastard!" Seeing that his body was suddenly unable to move, Ginkaku immediately glared at Kabuto, and even his body was trembling slightly because of the struggle. Ginkaku, who was standing next to Ginkaku, didn't look so excited, but the burning anger in his eyes was still so obvious. "Don't worry, you two. I didn't summon you two to become emotionless tools. Otherwise, I would have already controlled your consciousness." Kabuto walked slowly toward the direction where Ginkaku and Ginkaku were controlled. He came to Ginkaku's side and gently put his hand on his shoulder. A large amount of chakra poured into Ginkaku's body, supplying the chakra that was controlling him. Ginkaku's body, which was still trembling slightly, had completely stabilized at this moment. You two may not know this, but the ninja world now is different from the ninja world of your time. A ninja war that is far beyond the 5 major powers is happening. I know the personalities of the two of you very well. War, bloodshed, killing, and destruction are the things that the two of you love the most. Now I am giving you a chance to fully release your instincts. Chapter 588. In fact, Jin Jiao and Silver Jiao were not particularly smart people. Otherwise, the rebellion they launched during the Lightning Fire Alliance wouldn't have been so easily quelled. As a matter of fact, when Medicine Master Bai was bewitching Goldhorn and Silverhorn with his excellent language skills, both of them were already tempted by his offer. Language bewitchment itself is to carefully observe the other party's expression, study the other party's character and attitude in detail, and then use a very clever method to guide the other party's thinking, twisting the other party's thinking to the direction you want. Kabuto didn't bewitch Jin Jiao and Silver Jiao. Instead, he gave them a very brief explanation of the current situation of the ninja world. After all, they have been in the ninja world for many years. Even if they heard such a brief information, they still had a rough idea of the current situation. In other words, the Akatsuki you mentioned has now become the public enemy of the ninja world. The 5 great ninja villages have directly formed a ninja coalition to fight with you. Do you want to use such a war to determine the future of the ninja world? Silver Jiao, who had been standing behind Jin Jiao, suddenly asked Kabuto. Indeed, and because the two of you are Edo Tensei, as long as your chakra and body are not released from the Edo Tensei, you will not receive any fatal damage. Both of you are heroes of the ninja world. Now that you have such a body and such a battlefield, I don't think you want to miss it, right? If you want to really control a person and make them willing to be your weapon, the most important thing is to cater to their interests. Hide all your requirements and instead make requests from the other party's position, and then tactfully achieve all your goals. The first target of our Akatsuki is the ninja village you two are most familiar with, Cloud Village. Cloud Village, the ninja village where Jin Jiao and Silver Jiao were born. For the place where they lived and grew up, everyone will have a different feeling in their heart, even peerless villains like Jin Jiao and Silver Jiao. In fact, from the bottom of their hearts, Goldhorn and Silverhorn very much hope that all their actions in the past can be supported by their own ninja village. After all, when the Thunder and Fire Alliance was formed, the cloud-hidden village of the Land of Lightning was not completely suppressed by the Wood-Leaf village of the Land of Fire. Although it was undeniable that the two brothers were addicted to the thrill of fighting, they had also fought for the Cloud Village for so many years and created so many meritorious deeds. However, in the end, their demands were undeniably rejected. That was why Goldhorn and Silverhorn launched the rebellion that ended an era. The more you love something, the more you hate it when it betrays you. For the Cloud-Hidden Village, the resentment in Goldhorn and Silverhorn's hearts was far more than their affection and love. Let go of the restriction. My brother and I have already made our decision. Goldhorn and Silverhorn exchanged glances, Then Gold Horn said slowly to Medicine Master Pocket. Jin Jiao's voice didn't sound as excited as before. Instead, it sounded calm. Medicine Master Pocket was not worried that Gold Horn and Silver Horn would go back on their words. After all, he was so close to them. As long as he wanted to stop their actions, it would only take a thought. There was no need to be so careful. What do we need to do? Silver Horn moved his body, which was slightly stiff because he was forcibly controlled just now, and then asked Medicine Master Pocket. I need you to capture the Hachibi column force of the Cloud Hidden Village when we cooperate with the Sandame Reikage summoned by the Edo Tensei to contain the high-end combat power of the Cloud Hidden Village. Medicine Master Pocket didn't say too many useless words to Gold Horn and Silver Horn. Instead, he directly told them about his plan. Although there were many experts in the Cloud Hidden Village, there were not many people who had the strength of a Kage. The fourth Reikage AI was one, the Hachibi column force was another, and some of the more powerful Jonins were more difficult to deal with. On their side, they had Uchiha Obito, who was far stronger than a Kage, and Black Zetsu, who was definitely comparable to a Kage, although he deliberately hid his strength. Controlling the fourth Reikage's father, Sandame Reikage, a powerful ninja who also inherited the name AI, could definitely greatly affect the fourth Reikage's mind. Then Gold Horn and Silver Horn would catch the Hachibi column force by surprise. It was indeed a good plan with high operability. After waking up Sandame Reikage in the coffin, Sandame Reikage slowly opened his eyes, which had turned black because of the Edo Tensei. The moment he opened his eyes, Sandame Reikage finally looked around and began to observe the people standing around him. Sandame Reikage didn't know the masked Obito, the weird-looking Black Zetsu, and Medicine Master Pocket, who was wearing glasses and covered in a robe. But Sandame Reikage knew Gold Horn and Silver Horn. You two bastards! The moment he saw Gold Horn and Silver Horn, Sandame Reikage's body directly wrapped the powerful Raiton chakra. The powerful chakra even condensed a layer of chakra armor on Sandame Reikage's body, looking very powerful and mighty. What a hot-tempered guy! Looking at Sandame Reikage, who had completely entered the battle state, Medicine Master Pocket's eyes flashed with a trace of impatience. Medicine Master Pocket was very clear about the difference between Sandame Reikage, Gold Horn, and Silver Horn, no matter how much he tried to persuade Sandame Reikage to attack his ninja village. Therefore, Medicine Master Pocket directly unleashed all the chakra he had sealed in Sandame Reikage's body, directly blocking all the meridians in Sandame Reikage's body. Sandame Reikage's huge chakra was directly blocked in his meridians. Not only did the chakra armor on his body disappear in an instant, but his body also directly lost control because of the blocked meridians and directly fell to the ground softly. Medicine Master Pocket took out a kunai with a talisman hanging on it from his bosom, slowly walked to Sandame Reikage's side, and directly put this kunai into the head of Sandame Reikage's filthy earth reincarnation body. Although maintaining your consciousness will allow you to unleash greater strength, your greatest use right now is not in combat. It's better to completely control you, and then it's more cost-effective. After saying that, Medicine Master Pocket casually glanced at Gold Horn and Silver Horn, who were standing at the side, with a threatening look. Chapter 589. Although Jin Jiao and Silver Jiao believed that under certain circumstances, they could indeed unleash the strength of a Kage ninja, but they also knew that when it comes to comprehensive strength, in fact, both of them were only stronger than an elite Jonin, but there was a certain gap between them and a Kage ninja. But now, in front of them, Sandame Reikage, who was their junior but inherited the title of the strongest ninja in the Cloud Village, was simply controlled by Kabuto at this moment, and a talisman was implanted in his head. If both of them were forcibly controlled by Medicine Master Pocket because of their incompetence, and were turned into marionettes under his control, it would be the most unacceptable thing for people like Gold Horn and Silver Horn. Then, I'll leave it to the two of you to complete the task that I've assigned to you. Looking at Jin Jiao and Silver Jiao, Kabuto was keenly aware of the slight fear in their eyes, and his heart was filled with a sense of satisfaction. Even if you were a powerful ninja in your life, so what? In the end, you will still become a toy in my hands. Such a feeling made Kabuto, who didn't have a clear understanding of himself, feel a great sense of satisfaction. When Jin Jiao and Silver Jiao heard Kabuto's words, Although they didn't speak, they still nodded, apparently expressing their willingness to cooperate with Kabuto. When he saw Gold Horn and Silver Horn, who were so arrogant and unruly, acting like two harmless little lambs in front of him, Alchemist Pocket couldn't help but feel a little smug. Turning around, Kabuto glanced at Black Zetsu with his eyes very proudly, and then said to Obito very respectfully, "Sama, everything is ready, we can now attack the Cloud Village." Looking at Kabuto in front of him, Obito slowly nodded his head. "In that case, let's set off." In the Cloud Village, the fourth Raikage AI was sitting at his desk with a very dignified expression. Just now, he noticed the abnormality in the ninja village, but when he came out, the source of the abnormality suddenly disappeared. After that, the fourth Raikage AI immediately mobilized all the forces he could mobilize to search the Cloud Village, trying to find the source of the change. However, before they could find the source of the abnormality, bad news came one after another. 1/3 of the ninjas in the Cloud Village fell asleep for unknown reasons, and nearly 2/3 of the civilians were also in a coma for unknown reasons. This number has been increasing with the passage of time. In order to treat these ninjas and civilians, the Cloud Village Hospital has been overloaded at this moment, and even occupied a large number of public facilities in the Cloud Village because of the lack of beds and other reasons. If it's just occupying public facilities and using human resources, it won't be difficult for the fourth Raikage. What worried the Raikage the most was that after such a large number of people fell into a deep sleep, the people in the Cloud Village would become restless. Disasters are easily averted, but it is difficult for people to be at peace. Raikage Sama, Hope, who has always been the Raikage's right-hand man, walked into the Raikage's office and saluted respectfully. "So it's she? I've heard enough bad news today. Don't let me hear more bad news." In front of she, the Raikage didn't try to hide the tiredness in his eyes. After all, if it was any other faction's leader, he wouldn't be able to solve the problem of having so many people in his faction fall into a deep sleep for no reason. And now it's still an important period before the war, and AI really doesn't want people to be restless. "The news that I brought should be both good news and bad news to a greater extent, right?" Hope said to Raikage with a smile on her face. She seemed to be thinking about the news she brought with her, and said to Raikage, "Oh, that's a bit interesting." Hearing she, who had always been very calm, say such words at this moment, AI knew that the news she brought to him must be something he couldn't accept. Baisama came back and also brought the Nine Tails. Column Force has completely controlled the Nine Tails in his body, and at this moment, he has returned to the Wood Leaf Village accompanied by the Wood Leaf Elite Jonin Might Guy. However, while helping the Kyuubi Jinchuriki Uzumaki Naruto control the tailed beasts in his body, Baisama and Uzumaki Naruto discovered that Kisame was faking his death and had been hiding in the flesh of the shinobi shark. After that, Kisame was defeated by the Wood Leaf Elite Jonin Might Guy, who was responsible for supporting Uzumaki Naruto. But after all, Kisame has been lurking in the flesh of the ninja shark for quite a long time, and we can't guarantee that Kisame didn't send a message to the Akatsuki organization during this period of time. So we still have to be vigilant against any possible attack that the Akatsuki organization may launch against the Cloud Village. Speaking of attack, the strangest thing that happened in the Cloud Village is that a large number of ninjas and villagers fell into a coma that is difficult to treat. If we really make a bold guess, can we think that this strange event is actually the prelude of the Akatsuki organization's attack on the Cloud Village? For a long time, our thinking has been limited to the previous Shinobi World Wars, but we have ignored the fact that the Akatsuki organization is not the same as the 5 great shinobi villages. Even the Rain Country is actually just a shelter that the Akatsuki organization can give up. If the Akatsuki organization really launched an attack on our Cloud Village, and even in the end directly took over the Cloud Village as their new base of operations, As he spoke, Lien Shi's expression also became unfriendly. At the beginning, Hope actually just wanted to report the news of Killer Bee's return and whereabouts to Raikage, but as Hope began to speak, his mind was actually constantly analyzing all the things that happened at this stage. Originally, the mixed information in Hope's mouth had completely turned into a worry that could lead to the destruction of the Cloud Hidden Village. Chapter 590. AI knew that what she said just now was actually the result of considering the situation in the most dangerous direction. Even she himself didn't necessarily think of this when he came here. But as she began to report to the fourth Hokage, all the known information was constantly flashing in Shi's mind. Gradually, she couldn't help but form such a terrifying guess in his mind. And AI also became more serious because of Shi's guess. After all, Akatsuki can be said to be the #1 public enemy in the ninja world, and it can also be said that they are an organization in the ninja world. Once such an organization really attacks the Cloud Village, even if the fourth Raikage is confident, he can't help but worry. She, no matter what the reason is, such a strange situation happened in our Cloud Village, we can't take it lightly. If this is really the prelude of the Akatsuki's attack, then we can't relax. Akatsuki's goal is very clear. In fact, our village now has the Hachibi column force, my brother Killer B. No matter what, we have to be ready to fight. AI was about to give an order to Shi, but suddenly, a loud thunder sounded in the sky outside the Raikage's building. Such a sound directly suppressed all the words in AI's mouth. Not because AI was afraid of thunder like other children, but because accompanied by the thunder was a very powerful lightning release chakra aura, and for AI this aura was also very familiar. Because this aura belonged to the former Raikage of the Cloud Village, who is also AI's father, Sandame Raikage, who also has the name AI. AI didn't even have the thought to give an order, he just seriously felt the chakra aura coming from outside the building. This is impossible. How can this chakra aura reappear in the world? The dead can't be resurrected, this is almost an immutable truth. But now this scene, and the strong and familiar chakra aura, he felt undoubtedly told the fourth Raikage that his father has really appeared near him, and even released his huge chakra without any concealment. Father! Without even saying a word to Shi, directly broke through the window of his office, jumped out, and rushed towards the place where the aura was coming from. Killer B, the Hachibi's Jinchuriki, who had just returned to the Cloud Village for a short rest, also noticed this familiar yet strange aura. Killer B was not AI's biological brother, but the two of them were closer than real brothers. He was also very clear about the former Raikage's chakra aura. She was very clear about her brother's character. Out of the memory of her father and the sudden appearance of the chakra aura of the previous Raikage, her older brother will definitely go and investigate. It's too dangerous to go alone, and as the Raikage, he must not have any accidents. Thinking of this, Killer B immediately put away his weapon and rushed towards the place where the chakra aura was coming from. Compared to Killer B, who didn't use his tailed beast's power, there was no doubt that AI was much stronger. After activating the lightning release chakra mode, it also burst out with incredible speed. Like a thunder, he directly arrived at the place where his father's chakra aura was coming from. He had dark golden hair and a beard, wearing a sleeveless silver upper body armor, black trousers, and a dark red belt around his waist. This person was his father, the former Raikage AI. Although he saw his father after so many years, at this moment, the fourth Raikage's eyes were full of anger. Because at this moment, his father's skin was full of very ugly cracks, and even the color of his skin had turned dark gray. His eyeballs were completely black, and they were full of dull emotions. Felt like he was made into a marionette. His father, the eternal pride in his heart, was manipulated in this way at this moment after his death. Whether it was the Raikage of the Cloud Village or as a child, he couldn't accept such a situation. Edo Tensei? Looking at the rather strange characteristics of his father, the fourth Raikage quickly thought of this ninjutsu name that he deliberately remembered when he received the report of the wood leaf collapse plan. This ninjutsu was created by the second Hokage and perfected by the wood leaf ninja Orochimaru. It has the taboo power to summon the dead back to the world. But from the information he received, Orochimaru has been dead for a long time. In the end, who actually joined the Akatsuki, helped the Akatsuki to perform the Edo Tensei, and even stole his father's DNA to support the use of the Edo Tensei? I couldn't help but began to look at the figures of several people standing next to his father. He was wearing a wave-like mask decorated with 3 tomo, revealing a 3 tomo Sharingan and a Rinnegan in his eyes. He was wearing a navy blue robe and carrying the iconic round fan of the Uchiha clan on his back. Although he didn't speak, the fourth Raikage could still judge from the illusory and solid aura that this person should be the man who appeared at the 5 Kage gathering who called himself Uchiha Madara. Behind the man who called himself Uchiha Madara stood 2 figures, one of which the fourth Raikage was very familiar with. After all, after the declaration of war, almost all the original members of the Akatsuki were investigated. This person who was shrouded in nepenthes should be the one who didn't show up in the Akatsuki, but was very good at sneaking in. As for the other person who was completely wrapped in a gray robe, and the shadow of the hood completely covered his face, the fourth Raikage had no way to distinguish who this guy was. But this guy was constantly emitting a cold aura, which made the fourth Raikage couldn't help but think of a person. The former Woodleaf Sannin, the Woodleaf ninja who had already passed away, Orochimaru. So you're the one. Blaspheme my father's soul that has already rested. You now pay the price for your actions. Chapter 591. Ha ha ha! Alchemist Pocket, who was shrouded in a large grayish-white robe, emitted a somewhat sinister laugh. The hood with the snake eye pattern that completely covered his face was also slowly lifted by Alchemist Pocket. Medicine Master's Pocket's grayish-white hair and his pale face with snake scale patterns appeared in front of the fourth Raikage AI. Isn't that Orochimaru? Looking at Kabuto's appearance, which was obviously inconsistent with the description of Orochimaru, Yondaime Raikage muttered to himself. Although Yondaime Raikage's voice wasn't loud, Yakushi could still hear it. As the former right-hand man of Orochimaru, although he didn't hate him for following Orochimaru in the past, Yakushi obviously didn't want others to associate him with Orochimaru, even if all the power and achievements he had now were actually plagiarized from Orochimaru's legacy. Orochimaru-sama is my mentor, but I have surpassed him. My name is Yakushi. After saying his name, Yakushi immediately made hand seals to activate the talisman he transplanted in the mind of Sandaime Raikage. Sandaime Raikage, who had been standing in the same place, suddenly had a large amount of chakra surging on his body, and lightning jumped on Sandaime Raikage's body, and even faintly formed an armor-like appearance. This is Sandaime Raikage's strongest shield, the lightning armor. Looking at his dark-skinned father who was wrapped in lightning armor, the fourth-generation Raikage AI's eyes flashed with a trace of reminiscence. This was his father, the father he relied on since childhood, the father who risked his life to fight against 10,000 rock ninjas for 3 days and 3 nights in the most dangerous moment of the Cloud Village, the father who died of exhaustion. He was the father who he absolutely didn't want anyone to taint him in the slightest. Father, although I know that you are not the real you now, I will grow. I will let you see my growth. I am not the little kid who followed you behind and could only be protected by you. I am the fourth Raikage of the Cloud Village. I am AI. The fourth Raikage mobilized all the chakra in his body, and almost instantaneously entered the lightning chakra mode. The azure blue lightning was also attached to the fourth Raikage's body, and similar to the third Raikage, it formed a shape similar to that of an armor. However, it may be because Sandaime Raikage was in the Edo Tensei mode and was fully controlled, so compared to the lightning armor on his body, AI's chakra armor was obviously more dazzling. Do you need my help? Black Zetsu, who was standing beside Uchiha Obito, slowly walked to his side and asked softly. Even just by looking at the appearance of the lightning chakra armor worn by the fourth Raikage and the third Raikage, it's not difficult to see that the fourth Raikage at this moment is much stronger than the third Raikage summoned by the Edo Tensei. If Uchiha Obito really wanted to defeat the fourth Raikage, then just relying on the Edo Tensei to summon the third Raikage who can't fully display the abilities of the fourth Raikage is far from enough. Obito heard Black Zetsu's question and said indifferently, "Don't worry. Isn't the protagonist of this play not here yet? Now is not the time for us to make a move, although the fourth Raikage is indeed stronger than Sandaime Raikage. But the battle between such ninjas who are proficient in taijutsu is not so simple. It's enough to support our protagonist." The protagonist Obito was talking about was naturally the Hachibi column force of the Cloud Village, and the younger brother of the fourth Raikage, Killer B, who lived in the Cloud Village. The purpose of all his actions was to collect all the tailed beasts and then summon the Jubi. Defeating the cloud-hidden village was just a small trick to achieve his goal. After ordering Sandame Raikage to attack the fourth Raikage, Kabuto was also worried that the fourth Raikage would suddenly attack him, so he jumped to Uchiha Obito's side. Uchiha Obito's words were also heard by Kabuto, and he was even more vigilant about Uchiha Obito's gloomy character. The current Uchiha Obito was actually somewhat similar to Orochimaru. As long as you are valuable to him, even if you do something slightly excessive, Uchiha Obito will be lenient to you. But if you are no longer useful to Uchiha Obito, but you still want to stir up trouble in front of Uchiha Obito, then you have to be prepared to be obliterated by Uchiha Obito. I must find a way to strengthen my control over the Edo Tensei, so that I can control more people who have passed away. I don't want to be a useless tool that can be abandoned at will in anyone's eyes. Medicine Master told himself seriously in his heart. But a woman's figure suddenly appeared in Medicine Master Do's mind. The Edo Tensei Jutsu he is currently using was actually researched and perfected by Orochimaru, and the nature of Orochimaru's chakra has become very different from that of ordinary people after several self-modifications by him. If it weren't for Kabuto secretly signed a summoning contract with the Earth Dragon Cave and inherited a very powerful Sage Mode in the Earth Dragon Cave, and through Sage Mode he integrated a part of Orochimaru's chakra, it would be wishful thinking for Kabuto to learn a forbidden technique like Edo Tensei that can reverse life and death. Bang! Just when Kabuto was still thinking about how to make his Edo Tensei more powerful, Sandame Raikage and Yandame Raikage collided with each other on the battlefield. The collision between the two powerful Kage-level ninja jutsu directly made the flat ground become more bumpy. Roar! Whether it is Yandame Raikage or Sandame Raikage, at this moment, they didn't use any particularly gorgeous techniques. They just attacked each other with their bodies that have become abnormally strong after being stimulated by Raitun chakra. Although they didn't directly knock down the enemy with a punch, the battle of punches fully reflected a kind of violent aesthetics. Chapter 592. The battle continued slowly like this. Originally, the fourth Raikage AI still had some rationality in his heart, but as the battle became more and more intense, his battle maniac characteristics were directly revealed. At this moment, Sandame Raikage didn't have any other distracting thoughts in his mind. He just wanted to defeat his father in front of him. On the side of the battlefield, Uchiha Obito, Kabuto, and Black Zetsu were watching the battle between the father and son coldly. But at this moment, Obito's heart was faintly impatient, because the battle between Sandame Raikage and Sandame Raikage has been going on for nearly 10 minutes. For a ninja, 10 minutes of battle is already a limit. After all, ninjas mainly use ninjutsu to enhance their combat effectiveness, but after all, a person's chakra and physical strength are limited. Such a high-intensity battle can only last for 10 minutes, and most ninjas can't even last 10 minutes if they don't have enough stamina. Big Brother AI and Raikage. Finally, Killer Bee arrived at the place where the fourth Raikage and the third Raikage were fighting. Both of them were very important to Killer Bee, and they were very familiar with each other. Seeing the father and son fighting so fiercely, Killer Bee couldn't help but feel a strong sense of excitement. Killer Bee didn't even have the strange accent that he usually had when he was talking. Similar to Sandame Raikage, after carefully observing Sandame Raikage's state, Killer Bee's heart was full of anger. Someone actually blasphemed the soul of a person who was very important to him. He had to let him know how much he regretted what he had done. Hachibi, please. While communicating with the Hachibi in his body, Killer Bee began to slowly mobilize the powerful chakra belonging to the Hachibi. After following Killer Bee for so long, Hachibi naturally knew how terrifying Killer Bee was when he was serious. Moreover, Sandame Raikage was indeed a strong man worthy of respect. After all, he was stopped by such a man when he went berserk. It was because of this man that he and Killer Bee became such a close partner. Do it! By dash! Hachibi seemed to be helping Killer Bee to vent his anger. He directly connected his chakra with Killer Bee's body, and a huge amount of Bijuu's chakra directly shrouded Killer Bee's body. Oh! Black Zetsu and Uchiha Obito, who had been watching the battle, suddenly moved their eyes away from Sandame Raikage and Sandame Raikage. When Killer Bee didn't use his powerful chakra, Black Zetsu and Uchiha Obito thought that they didn't notice the battle between the two Raikages. But now, Killer Bee's thick and violent chakra was obvious to people like Black Zetsu and Obito. Black Zetsu, now start mobilizing the White Zetsu army to block this place. You must cooperate with the White Zetsu army. Before everything is settled, you must not let the people of Cloud Village come here to support 4th Raikage and Hachibi Column Force. After the spore attack of the White Zetsu army, not only did 1/3 of the ninjas and 2/3 of the civilians in the Cloud Village fall into a coma, but it also restrained the manpower of the Cloud Village. Now, the number of Cloud ninjas that can support the 4th Raikage is extremely limited. At this time, with the advantage of the number of White Zetsu's army and Black Zetsu's personal strength, it's not a problem to block all the Cloud ninjas that come to support the 4th Raikage. Even if there is an accident in the process, Kabuto still has 2 cards in his hands, the Golden Horn and the Silver Horn. No matter what happens, with the strength of the Golden Horn and the Silver Horn, they can completely control the situation. Such a situation is the death trap created by Uchiha Obito for the Hachibi Jinchuriki and Yondaime Raikage. After hearing Obito's order, Black Zetsu didn't say anything and immediately dived into the ground to carry out Obito's order. Obito himself used the power of his Manjikyu Sharingan, and after his figure became slightly illusory, he reappeared beside Killer Bee. Using the strange eye power contained in the Rinnegan mixed with his own chakra, a black iron rod directly appeared in the hands of Uchiha Obito. The black iron rod, containing a part of the special power of the Rinnegan, has an extremely strong suppressive effect on chakra. It is just the right weapon to fight against a ninja like Column Force who relies heavily on chakra. Without using any subtle moves, Uchiha Obito sent the black iron rod in his hand towards Killer Bee. Looking at Uchiha Obito's almost unskillful attack, Killer Bee didn't relax his vigilance. After all, Uchiha Obito's eyes are 2 of the 3 major dojutsu of the ninja world, Sharingan and Rinnegan. The huge chakra of the Hachibi continued to condense on Killer Bee. Killer Bee, 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 Killer Bee. One of Killer Bee's hands was holding the shark skin he got from the Kisan ghost shark. The other hand was holding a long saber and a short saber in his mouth. Killer Bee stretched out 5 octopus tentacles from his back and held the remaining 5 ninja swords tightly. Obito saw that Killer Bee had completely entered the battle state, but he still didn't change his seemingly simple move. He still calmly stabbed the black iron rod in his hand towards Killer Bee's position. However, the closer he got to Killer Bee, the more Obito's attention was attracted to the huge muscles in Killer Bee's hand. Through the Rinnegan, Obito felt a very important aura from the Killer Bee. Killer Bee, 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 Bee, Killer Bee, Killer Bee, Killer Bee, Killer Bee, Killer Bee, Killer Bee. After making up his mind, Uchiha Obito's black iron rod immediately became faster. Chapter 593. Originally, the black iron rod in Obito's hand was casually thrown towards Killer Bee, but when Obito retracted his arm, it instantly became fierce. It was as if a venomous snake had suddenly discovered its prey. It bared its venomous fangs and directly bit its prey. Sure enough, looking at Obito's sudden increase in speed and his imposing manner, Killer Bee said in his heart, as the current leader of Akatsuki, Killer Bee doesn't believe that Uchiha Obito is an idiot. Although Uchiha Obito's attack has many flaws in the eyes of a ninja like Killer Bee who is proficient in taijutsu, but it's still remarkable. It's normal for a Kage-level ninja to have such a taijutsu level. Abdomen? As a ninja who is proficient in kenjutsu, Killer Bee was almost at the moment when Obito launched his attack. Killer Bee has already judged where Obito's attack will land. His muscles all over his body tightened. whether it's the Sharingan in his hand or the Hachibi's chakra condensed tentacles on his back. All of them slightly moved towards his abdomen to protect him. Killer Bee's judgment was right. The black iron staff in Obito's hand was indeed attacking his abdomen. Everything was as he expected. The Sharingan in his hand blocked the black iron staff in Obito's hand. The katana in his other hand directly slashed towards Obito's head that was covered with the gray mask. The 5 octopus tentacles behind Killer Bee also controlled the katana to attack Obito's vital points. A total of 6 attacks were about to hit Obito's body. Lightning release chakra wrapped around the katana, increasing the attack power of the katana and greatly increasing the attack speed of the katana. Looking at the katana that Killer Bee used to attack him, Obito showed a slight smile under the mask that covered his face. For an ordinary ninja, falling into such a crisis will definitely lead to death. But Obito is not an ordinary ninja. The Manjikyu Sharingan in Obito's right eye is accompanied by a powerful dojutsu called Kamui. Lowering his head slightly to cover his Manjikyu Sharingan, Kamui was activated. His figure suddenly became a bit illusory. The figure that was rushing towards Killer Bee directly passed through Killer Bee's body as if it didn't exist. Whether it was Killer Bee's muscles that were used to defend against the attack of the black iron staff, or the sharp attacks launched by the 7 ninja swords in his mouth, they all directly passed through Obito's illusory figure. Damn it! Killer Bee didn't know that Obito has such a space ability, but he didn't expect Obito's space ability to be so strange and convenient. After realizing his mistake, Killer Bee immediately began to rotate his body, and the powerful chakra that was originally wrapped around Killer Bee's body became even more powerful. After all, when there is enough chakra, it will have a certain tendency to materialize. At least it can reduce the disadvantage in the battle and buy some time for himself to react. After the 2 figures crossed each other, Obito's reaction was naturally faster than Killer Bee. 1 step ahead, naturally he will be ahead. Killer Bee's body hasn't fully turned, and even his chakra hasn't fully erupted. The black iron rod in Obito's hand quickly stabbed towards Killer Bee's shoulder that was holding the shark muscle. Killer Bee's strong physical fitness and majestic chakra have become as thin as paper at this moment, easily broken by the black iron staff. The black iron staff itself has a part of the special power of the Rinnegan. When it pierced into Killer Bee's body, a strong pain directly went through Killer Bee's nerves and directly into his brain. The severe pain directly made Killer Bee's body produce an instinctive reaction, and his hand that was tightly holding Killer Bee's shoulder also involuntarily loosened. The huge Killer Bee's shoulder fell directly on the ground, loosening the black iron staff in his hand. Obito rolled on the ground and picked up the Killer Bee's shoulder, quickly widening the distance between him and Killer Bee. Obito finally had time to look at the shark muscles that had been restless since he caught them. Seemingly aware that the person who held it in his hand has stopped moving, Killer Bee's shoulder also began to move. Opening its ferocious mouth, rotating its huge body, Killer Bee's shoulder directly wanted to swallow this master that it didn't recognize. Looking at Killer Bee's movement, Obito didn't feel that it was too troublesome. Staring at the Killer Bee's shoulder in his hand, the powerful deterrence of Manjikyu Sharingan and Rinnegan was directly applied to Killer Bee's shoulder. The Killer Bee's shoulder, which was still showing its fangs and claws just now, directly softened at this moment. Like a docile kitten, it was directly held in Obito's hand. Obito slowly sent his chakra into the Killer Bee's shoulder, feeling the powerful chakra stored inside the Killer Bee's shoulder. His eyes flashed with a hint of understanding. Sure enough, the Kismet ghost shark didn't do nothing except pass on some incomplete information. At this moment, the Hachibi's chakra stored in the Killer Bee's shoulder is actually enough to support the minimum level of awakening the Geto Mazo. With the Killer Bee's shoulder, Obito can completely absorb the Hachibi's chakra stored in the Killer Bee's shoulder into the Geto Mazo. The only thing that hasn't been collected now is the Nine Tails' chakra, but Uchiha Obito also has his own plan regarding this. The Golden Horn and Silver Horn summoned by Kabuto through Edo Tensei are not as simple as combat power. If he really wants to awaken the Nine Tails, he can absorb the chakra stored in the Golden Horn and Silver Horn's body by devouring the Nine Tails' flesh and blood into the Geto Mazo. In fact, as long as Obito is willing, he can summon the Jubi. But such an incomplete Jubi, Obito doesn't really think that he can really perform the perfect Tsukuyomi world, so if possible, Obito still hopes that he can collect a complete Jubi as soon as possible, and then summon a complete Jubi to realize his Eye of the Moon project. Chapter 594. The fourth Raikage, who was fighting Sandame Raikage, suddenly felt a throbbing feeling in his heart. He increased the amount of chakra in his hand and directly forced his father to retreat. He quickly looked back at the place where Killer Bee's chakra erupted. Killer Bee's shoulder with a black iron rod stuck in it, and the gurgling blood was so conspicuous. Whether it was Killer Bee's expression or physical condition, he didn't look so good. What the hell am I doing? Seeing his younger brother in such a state, the fervor in AI's eyes due to the battle faded a lot. The purpose of coming here was to investigate why his father's chakra suddenly appeared here, but after seeing his father being controlled by the Edo Tensei, he completely lost his mind. AI was very familiar with his adopted brother. Obviously, Killer Bee was worried that he would fall into a trap on impulse, so he chased after him regardless of the fact that he had just returned to the ninja village and didn't have time to rest. But when Killer Bee arrived here, he had completely fallen into a battle frenzy. He let his younger brother face the strong man who called himself Uchiha Madara alone, while he was fighting his father for his meaningless vanity. After Sandame Raikage was repelled by he immediately attacked the place where he was. But at this moment, I didn't have the intention to fight his father who was born with Edo Tensei. I'm sorry, father. Now is not the time to be nostalgic. Looking at Sandame Raikage rushing towards him, the fourth Raikage's eyes flashed with a trace of decisiveness. Although it seemed that Sandame Raikage and the fourth Raikage were fighting fiercely, in fact, the fourth Raikage still instinctively held back a little during the battle. After all, although the person who is fighting with him now has no self-consciousness, he is still his father, the father who sacrificed his life for the Cloud Village. Looking at her father's figure, looking at her father's ninjutsu, the fourth Raikage subconsciously didn't want her father to disappear like this. If he could watch for a while longer, he would definitely do so. But now, his sworn brother, Killer Bee, was in a dangerous situation. Although his father was very important to him, after all, his father was already dead. His sworn brother, Killer Bee, was also his family. He absolutely could not give up. Such a simple choice was difficult for the fourth-generation Raikage AI, but it wasn't complicated. Raitun Ninjutsu! Looking at the Sandame Raikage, the fourth Raikage AI roared and directly jumped into the air. The enormous lightning release chakra that was originally wrapped around AI's body had already accumulated to the maximum. The fourth-generation Lightning Shadow AI was now almost completely wrapped in blue-white lightning. Lightning Abuse Level Chio Dance. Almost all of the chakra on her body was condensed in her hand blade, and the powerful force was directly added to the body of Sandame Raikage, whose strength has decreased because of the Edo Tensei. The powerful lightning continued to move around the body of Sandame Raikage, and pieces of debris fell from the body of Sandame Raikage. In the end, the Edo Tensei's body couldn't completely withstand the fourth Raikage AI's lightning ninjutsu, Lightning Abuse Level Chio Dance, and the Edo Tensei's body directly exploded and disappeared. Although the Edo Tensei won't disappear because of such injuries, after all, it still takes a certain amount of time and a lot of chakra to recover, so at this moment, Sandame Raikage has lost the ability to fight. Yakushi Kabuto was originally concentrating on controlling Sandame Raikage to fight against AI, but when Sandame Raikage directly turned into dust under the attack of AI, this situation was a great burden for Yakushi Kabuto, and his originally sickly cheeks became even paler. The fourth-generation Raikage coldly looked at Yakushi Kabuto, although he wanted to directly rush to Yakushi Kabuto's side and kill him for playing with the souls of the dead. There were more important things for him to do at this moment. Ha! Activating his chakra with all his strength, he used almost all of his chakra to increase his speed. Like a bolt of lightning, he directly rushed towards Killer Bee's location. When he came to Killer Bee's side, he didn't say a word. He directly grabbed Killer Bee in his arms and rushed to the periphery of the battlefield with Killer Bee. Seeing a rushing to the periphery of the battlefield with Killer Bee, Yakushi Kabuto immediately came to Obito's side and said very respectfully, "Sama, we need." Although Yakushi Kabuto only said half of his words, Obito already stretched out his hand to stop Yakushi Kabuto from continuing. I know you want to ask me if I want to catch up with them, but I have my own arrangements. If we want to keep the 4th generation Raikage and the Hachibi column force here, we need to pay a huge price, and it's not worth it. Since it's so meaningless, it's better to let them go. Now it's not us who need to worry, it's the 5 great ninja villages. Although we used a surprise attack this time, after all, we defeated one of the 5 great ninja villages in a very short time. Now it's not us who are nervous, but the 5 great ninja villages, because they are standing on the opposite side of us. Although Obito said so to Yakushi Kabuto, at this moment, Obito didn't think so in his heart. The current Akatsuki doesn't need to continue to attack other ninja villages like this. After all, such an attack can only be done once, and the effect of continuing to do so is very limited. What Obito wants to do now is to stay in the Cloud Village and use the special terrain of the Cloud Village to fight the other 4 ninja villages. With the White Zetsu army and the strong Edo Tensei, Obito is confident that he can compete with the 5 great ninja villages. As for defeating the 5 great ninja villages and unifying the ninja world, such a boring thing is not what Obito wants to do. Chapter 595. The Akatsuki attacked the Cloud Village of the Land of Lightning and defeated the Cloud Village directly. A large number of ninjas and civilians fell into a coma. The 4th Dame Raikage AI cooperated with the Hachibi Column Force Killer, B, to lead the remaining forces in the village to evacuate. It was like a spark on a dry grassland, and almost in a blink of an eye, it directly evolved into a prairie fire. Is the Akatsuki so powerful? Since the news of the war came out, almost all countries and ninjas had a bit of contempt and relaxation in their hearts. After all, the Akatsuki is just an organization from a small country, and the resources and power it can control are absolutely not comparable to the 5 great villages behind the 5 major countries. What's more, in order to deal with the Akatsuki, the 5 great villages have united and formed an offensive and defensive alliance. How can such a small organization like the Akatsuki be comparable to such power? People will always deliberately ignore things they don't want to see. How can the Akatsuki be so weak? If the Akatsuki is so weak, how can the 5 great villages not hesitate to let go of the grievances accumulated from previous wars and join hands to deal with the Akatsuki? It can be said that such a behavior of Akatsuki, in fact, in addition to proving their strength to everyone, they also tore off the last layer of fig leaf that those fools in the shinobi world who didn't want to see the situation clearly put on themselves. In the Wood Leaf Ninja Village, Watergate was at the gate of the Wood Leaf Ninja Village at the moment, waiting for the 4th Dame Raikage AI to bring the remaining forces of the Land of Lightning and the Cloud Village to Wood Leaf Ninja Village to meet with Watergate. Perhaps in AI's heart, among the 5 great villages, only Watergate meets the requirements of his heart for an ally. The Kazekage Gaara of the Land of Wind is aggressive, but after all, he is too young, and his thinking is a bit naive. The Tsuchika Jinoki of the Land of Earth is old and has become muddle-headed and cowardly. The conflict between the Cloud Village and the Rock Village is also very big, and even the father of the previous Raikage died in Inoki's calculation. Although the Mizukage Mei of the Mist-Hidden Village is shrewd and courageous, from A's point of view, women still have many shortcomings compared to men. Moreover, it's not a good choice for the Raikage to take refuge with the Mizukage of the Mist-Hidden Village. After some consideration, only the Hokage of the Wood Leaf Village, Watergate of the Land of Fire, is in A's heart. Moreover, compared to other countries, Konoha has an advantage that other villages can't reach, and that's the abundance of resources. Although the 5 countries outside of the Land of Fire have their own specialties, compared to the Land of Fire, they are still slightly inferior. Can be said that the Cloud Village of the Land of Lightning has lost its foothold. If they want their ninjas to not be treated coldly, only Konoha, who manages its image in the shinobi world and flaunts itself with gentleness and peace, can really take in the ninjas of the Cloud Village of the Land of Lightning. Although there will be a lot of voices that AI doesn't want to hear in the Land of Fire or Wood Leaf Village, AI believes that the Wood Leaf Village of the Land of Fire, Icewind Watergate, who has a high reputation in the Land of Fire, will definitely tolerate their presence and suppress other people's active ambitions. Finally, after waiting for a while, the figure of the 4th Raikage AI, the Hachibi Column Force Killer B, and the Wood Leaf Ninja Nara Shikamaru, who was sent to meet the cloud village of the Land of Lightning, slowly appeared in front of Watergate's eyes. Behind these three people were the remnants of the cloud village, who seemed to have deep pain and hatred in their eyes. Hokage-sama. Seeing Watergate, the wood-leaf ninja Nara Shikamaru immediately sped up in front of Watergate and saluted very respectfully. This time we received a total of ninjas, including the fourth Raikage and the daimyo of the Land of Lightning, and the total number of ninjas and politicians. Hearing Nara Shikamaru began to report the results of this mission, Watergate immediately waved his hand, indicating that Shikamaru didn't need to continue. After all, Watergate actually doesn't care so much about how many ninjas and politicians of the Land of Lightning came to Woodleaf Village to seek refuge. What Watergate really needs to take seriously is the fourth Raikage and the Hachibi Column Force, whose strength is beyond ordinary ninjas, and the specific situation of the fall of the Cloud Village. Although after Watergate's return, Woodleaf Village has been spending a lot of effort to investigate the Akatsuki's information, but it still has little effect. This time, since the Akatsuki was able to sneak attack the Cloud Village and cause great damage to the Cloud Village, then they must have shown some of their cards. When you clearly realize how powerful your enemy is, it won't make you feel terrible, but your enemy has been hiding in the dark. Like a black veil covering their face, you will feel more terrible. Now, although the Cloud Village has suffered a certain loss, in fact, the high-end combat power is still very intact. Being able to use some low-level ninjas and civilians with almost no combat power in exchange for precious information of the Akatsuki, although it may be a bit cold-blooded, but such a transaction can't be regarded as a loss, right? Hokage. Seeing Watergate directly standing at the entrance of the village to receive a group of defeated soldiers, although it was expected, but it also let a once again confirm Watergate's tolerance. Such a person is destined to achieve great things, and will not be blinded by temporary gains and losses, and stick to his decision from the beginning to the end. This is Watergate. His fighting ability is very outstanding, and he is also a qualified politician and leader. Raikage-sama, you don't have to say much. Everything that happened now is not what we want to see. But since everything has happened, we can't be bound by the sadness and hatred in our hearts. The Akatsuki that invaded the Cloud Village is still entrenched in the Land of Lightning, and for the time being, it seems that there is no sign of activity again. Now, what we need to do is not to feel sorry for ourselves, but to work hard. What happened to the Cloud Village cannot happen to any other village. Otherwise, it will be a huge loss for the entire ninja world. Chapter 596. In the Bloodcloth Pavilion, Nangong-je was sitting at the dining table with his family Mashiro, Nangong-ro, and Little Linger. Ever since Nangong-je mobilized all the disciples of the Bloodcloth Pavilion, the Bloodcloth Pavilion has been in a tense state of war preparation. However, because the situation hasn't reached the moment that Nangong-je expected, although the Bloodcloth Pavilion was preparing their troops, they still didn't carry out any large-scale operations. So these days, Nangong-je has been staying in the Bloodcloth Pavilion, receiving information from all sides. Nangong-je has been analyzing the situation of the ninja world. And now is one of the few times that Nangong-je can put down the various complicated affairs in his hands and eat with his family. These days, Nangong-je really didn't have time to cook for his family. So this meal was actually made by Mashiro, Nangong-ro, and Little Linger after taking time off from the complicated work in the sharp gold altar. Although there are logistical personnel in the Bloodcloth Pavilion who can prepare meals for Nangong-je, out of Nangong-je's habit of eating, Mashiro still took time off from his complicated affairs to cook for Nangong-je. This meal actually just started not long ago. The rice bowl in front of Nangong-je was just taken a few bites by Nangong-je, and the grilled blue and white fish on the plate was only touched by Nangong-je a few times. But suddenly, a burst of urgent knocking echoed directly in Nangong-je's house. Nangong-je's brows instinctively frowned slightly. After all, eating time is one of the few times that he can put down all the burdens and share this time with his family. But now, even his last moment of relaxation was about to be taken away from him. Seeing Nangong-je's displeasure, Mashiro naturally reacted immediately. Putting down the rice bowl in his hand, Mashiro slowly walked to Nangong-je's side and put his hand on Nangong-je's shoulder. "Don't be like this, Miyagi. You are not only yourself now, you are also not only the family of the three of us. You are also the leader of the Bloodcloth Pavilion, the common leader of the entire ninja world. Before, you could be willful and do whatever you want, but now you have a lot of responsibilities on your shoulders. This is not a bad thing. Mashiro returned to the Bloodcloth Pavilion together with Nan Gongxia. As the temporary altar master of the Sharp Gold Altar, Mashiro also had a deeper understanding of the Bloodcloth Pavilion's affairs. As perhaps compared to Nan Gongxia, Mashiro understood how important Nan Gongxia was to the Bloodcloth Pavilion. The current Nan Gongxia could almost be said to have become the spiritual sustenance of the entire Bloodcloth Pavilion. As long as it was Nan Gongxia's order, the disciples of the Bloodcloth Pavilion would sacrifice their lives for Nan Gongxia's order without any complaints. Hearing Mashiro's words, Nan Gongxia raised his head and looked at Little Linger and Nan Gongro sitting opposite him, then looked at Mashiro standing beside him. In their eyes, although there was some hidden reluctance, it was more a kind of support for him. Although they enjoyed the fact that Nan Gongxia could devote all his time to them, they were also unwilling to let Nan Gongxia lose himself because of them. Nan Gongxia wasn't just a gentle man who took care of his family. At the same time, Nan Gongxia was also the leader of an organization, a peerless powerhouse standing in the ninja world. The sword of a powerhouse can be collected, but the sword of a powerhouse must never be covered in dust. Mashiro, Nan Gongro, and Little Linger all didn't want to become the dust attached to Nan Gongxia's sword. Instead, they hoped that the three of them could become the scabbard of Nan Gongxia's sharp sword, giving Nan Gongxia a place to rest. Nodding his head to the three girls, Nan Gongxia's eyes also became firm. In fact, Nan Gongxia understood what Mashiro said just now, but maybe it was because of the strong pressure during this time, or maybe it was because he owed the three girls in his heart. Nan Gongxia really didn't want to give up such an ordinary thing like sitting quietly with his family. But now that he saw the support of the three girls, Nan Gongxia slightly understood their thoughts. They didn't want to be a burden to him. What they wanted more was to be his support behind him. When Nan Gongxia understood the feelings of the three girls, he also secretly made up his mind that he would not let down his family's efforts. Then, I'm leaving. Nan Gongxia slowly stood up with the Heaven's Calamity Sword in his hand. The anger between his eyebrows just now had completely disappeared at this moment. At this moment, Nan Gongxia was once again the heroic and peerless expert in the hearts of the Bloodcloth Pavilion disciples, who pointed out the direction for everyone. Nan Gongxia walked to the door of his small building and slowly pushed it open. He directly lifted his feet and stepped out of the door. The person standing at the door of Nan Gongxia's small building was none other than Bai Shui, the altar master of Bai Shui, who was in charge of the intelligence gathering and assassination work. Bai Shui could be said to be the one who understood Nan Gongxia's character the best among the original altar masters of the Bloodcloth Pavilion. However, this time the intelligence was really urgent. The moment he saw the intelligence, Bai Shui knew that he had to hand it over to Nan Gongxia as soon as possible so that Nan Gongxia could make a decision. Now was the time that Nan Gongxia cherished the most and had a meal with his family. If other people came, Bai Shui really couldn't guarantee that Nan Gongxia wouldn't explode with all the pressure he had been under during this period of time. Exploding was a small matter. However, if Nan Gongxia took out his anger on the disciple who delivered the intelligence for him, or even punished him, such behavior would undoubtedly destroy Nan Gongxia's image in the Bloodcloth Pavilion. This was something that Bai Shui absolutely couldn't allow. Therefore, Bai Shui came. Even if he might have to bear the wrath of Nan Gongxia, Bai Shui had no complaints or regrets. The moment Nan Gongxia saw Bai Shui, he was slightly surprised. After all, during this period of time, every altar master of the Bloodcloth Pavilion was in a state of high tension. The work that needed to be dealt with every day was also piled up like a mountain. Bai Shui's sudden appearance here was just to pass him a piece of information. Naturally, Nan Gongxia was unable to react to such a thing. However, Nan Gongxia wasn't a fool. After thinking about it, he understood the reason why Bai Shui did this. With a slight smile on his face, Nan Gongxia looked at Bai Shui, who was standing opposite him. There were too many people who silently supported him. Even if it wasn't for himself, Nan Gongzhi would never allow himself to fail. Chapter 597. Chief. Before Nan Gongzhi could speak, Bishui bowed respectfully to Nan Gongzhi. Over the years, Nan Gongzhi has been the chief of the Bloodcloth Pavilion. In fact, he has made great progress compared to when he was fighting alone. And the biggest progress is that Nan Gongzhi has become more and more able to hide his emotions when he needs to. Although among the original altar lords of the Bloodcloth Pavilion, Bishui has always been the one who understands Nan Gongzhi the most and is also the one who Nan Gongzhi trusts the most. But even with such a close relationship with Nan Gongzhi, Bishui still doesn't think that he can see every second of Nan Gongzhi clearly, especially now that she had interrupted Nan Gongzhi's meal with his most cherished family. Bai Shui didn't dare to guarantee that Nan Gongzhi wouldn't release all the pressure that had accumulated in his heart during this period of time. Bishui is very nervous now. This kind of nervousness is almost completely written on Bishui's face and reflected in the small movements of Bishui's body. And as a person who has received ninja training, Nan Gongzhi naturally found the nervousness in Bishui's heart very easily at this moment. Sure enough, he has accumulated too much pressure during this time. It actually made Bishui, who is very close to him, feel a lot of pressure. Bishui, there is no one else here, you and I don't need to be so restrained. Nan Gongzhi's face had a bit of a gentle smile. He gently put his hand on Bishui's shoulder, hoping to relieve the pressure in Bishui's heart in this way. Seeming to be aware of Nan Gongzhi's intention, Bishui's originally tense muscles gradually relaxed. Although Nan Gongzhi asked Bishui not to be so restrained, Bishui still took a step back and dodged Nan Gongzhi's hand on his shoulder. Bishui bowed deeply and said very respectfully, "Etiquette cannot be abolished. Now is the critical time of the Bloodcloth Pavilion. No one can indulge the feelings in their heart at will. We can't destroy the future of the entire Bloodcloth Pavilion because of a moment of indulgence." Although it seems that Bishui is talking about himself, there is still a faint sense of blame to Nan Gongzhi. This kind of behavior was actually a kind of offense, but Bishui believed that such an offense had to be done. Since it has been decided to take the Bloodcloth Pavilion as a third force to join this dangerous fourth shinobi world war that will sweep the entire ninja world, they must be prepared to sacrifice. Not only did they have to sacrifice themselves on the battlefield, but they also had to put down everything they cherished and focus all their attention on this war. Hearing Bishui's slightly accusatory words, Nan Gongzhi didn't have any anger in his heart. Instead, he was a little touched and speechless. After all, as the head of the Bloodcloth Pavilion, and Bishui as the altar lord of Bishui Altar, there is a great disparity in status between them. And in the Bloodcloth Pavilion, offending one's superior is a crime that is enough to expel a disciple of the Bloodcloth Pavilion from the Bloodcloth Pavilion. Right now, even though Bai Shui was under such pressure, she still had to voice her opinion to Nan Gongzhi. How many men could compare to her spirit and strength of character? She was no less than a man. Don't worry, Bishui. I already understand what you mean. From the moment I sat on the seat of the Blood Garment Pavilion's first seat, I was no longer, and could no longer be, alone. Countless disciples of the blood-robed pavilion have entrusted their lives to me, and they have entrusted their futures to me. This is my responsibility. This is my duty. Ignoring Bai Shui's reaction, Nan Gongzhi took a few steps forward and walked to Bai Shui's side. He used his own hands to help Bai Shui up from the ground. He used his eyes to stare at Bishui's eyes, as if he hoped that Bishui could see his determination in his eyes. During this period of time I have been willful, and I have also made all of you worry. From today onwards, no matter when or where, as long as there is an urgent military situation, as long as it requires me to personally deal with it, I will be on call and will not refuse. Hearing Nan Gongzhi's promise, Bishui's face finally had a slight smile. She took out a scroll from her bosom and very respectfully handed it over to Nan Gongzhi with both hands. Sure enough, it really is an urgent matter. Nan Gongzhi stretched out his hand and took the scroll from Bishui's hand. Nan Gongzhi didn't check whether there was any encryption seal on the scroll, but directly tore it open and read it. Seeing Nan Gongzhi open the scroll, Bishui also said to Nan Gongzhi, "Previously, Our Bloodcloth Pavilion received the news about the Akatsuki organization's surprise attack on the Cloud Village and directly defeated the Cloud Village. Now, the disciples of the Jade Water Altar have finally pieced together what happened that day through various channels. The specific details have been recorded in a scroll. Please take a look at it. Casually nodding his head, Nangongzhi directly looked at the scroll in his hand. The information was read by Nangongzhi, and Nangongzhi's expression became more and more dignified. White Zetsu Clone Army, Edo Tensei Army. After reading all the scrolls in his hand, Nangongzhi quickly noticed the two most important information. As for Uchiha Obito's attire change, Nangongzhi didn't take this information to heart, and the strange configuration of Obito's Rinnegan and Sharingan was not something that the disciples of Bloodcloth Pavilion could find after the war. In the known information, the White Zetsu Army and the Edo Tensei Army were the most likely to attract Nangongzhi's attention. The huge number of White Zetsu Army and the Edo Tensei Army that could summon the strong from the dead back to the human world, no matter which one, was a thorny problem. But now, the Akatsuki organization directly grasped these two powerful and terrifying forces in their own hands. Even with Nangongzhi's state of mind, he couldn't help but begin to worry. After all, Nangongzhi's plan was formulated under the situation that the strength of the ninja allied forces of the 5 great ninja villages was not far from the strength of the Akatsuki organization. Now, if one side occupied the absolute advantage, then Nangongzhi's plan to play an important role as a third party can only be put on hold. This Hui informed the Bloodcloth Pavilion. Pay close attention to the next battle between the ninja allied forces and the Akatsuki organization. Once the ninja allied forces have a large number of losses, we are always ready to join the battlefield to balance the strength of both sides. Chapter 598. It wasn't just Nangongzhi who was worried about the strength of the two major forces in the shinobi world. As one of the 5 major shinobi villages, the Hokage of Woodleaf Village, Watergate was also worried about this matter. This time, after receiving the 4th Reikage, Watergate immediately asked about the Akatsuki's attack on the Cloud Village. Although the 4th Reikage was impulsive, he also knew the importance of information. Even if he was humiliated in his heart, even if he was unwilling to accept his failure, the 4th Reikage still told Watergate the precious information that the Cloud Village exchanged with their blood and lives. Kabuto, who used the Edo Tensei and claimed that he inherited and surpassed Orochimaru. The masked man who had 1 Sharingan and 1 Rinnegan, and who hid his identity with a mask and called himself Uchiha Madara. Even Zetsu, who had been staying in the Akatsuki for a long time, also showed the strength of a Kage-level ninja when he blocked the rescue team of the Cloud Village, and he could also use an exquisite Mokutan ninjutsu. Not to mention the White Zetsu army that was roughly estimated to be at least tens of thousands of people, and the Edo Tensei summoned from the underworld. The White Zetsu army that has the strength of a Chunin, and the strong people who have died without fear of death. It's really troublesome. Even Watergate, who has always been very optimistic, couldn't help but frown. After all, whether it's the advantage of the number of White Zetsu army, or the strength of the strong people summoned by the Edo Tensei, it's a huge trouble for ordinary ninjas. Considering the strength of the Akatsuki described by the Reikage, Watergate also thought that if the Akatsuki attacked the Woodleaf Village with such strength, could the Woodleaf Village block such an attack? Even if the Woodleaf Village really tried their best to block the attack of the Akatsuki, how many Woodleaf Village members would be left alive in the end? Last time, the former leader of the Akatsuki, Nagato, invaded Woodleaf Village with his 6 paths of pain, which caused great damage to the village. The pain of war had not healed even now, and it was precisely because of this pain. This forced Watergate to find a suitable way to fight against Akatsuki and prevent them from using the same method to attack Woodleaf. But fortunately, after the Akatsuki organization invaded the Cloud Village, they almost stopped their actions. According to the investigation of the Woodleaf Village, the Akatsuki seemed to be relying on the terrain of the Cloud Village to construct layers of fortifications. Is it possible that the Akatsuki wants to give up their flexibility advantage and turn to a frontal confrontation with the ninja allied forces formed by the 5 major ninja villages? Watergate didn't know what Akatsuki was thinking by using their weakness to fight against the 5 great ninja villages. But such a method was actually a good thing for the 5 great ninja villages. After all, if the Akatsuki really insisted on using sneak attacks to deal with the other ninja villages like the beginning, maybe it won't be like the first battle with the Cloud Village, but it can also cause enough trouble for the other ninja villages. Opening the blank scroll on his desk, Watergate picked up the pen and began to write on the blank scroll. From the beginning to the end, Watergate put down the pen in his hand. Watergate almost wrote 3 invitations in one go. Forming a seal with his hands, Minato cast a sealing technique on the 3 scrolls, and then summoned his shadow guards. Hokage-sama. The moment the shadow guard appeared, he directly knelt on the ground and said to Watergate very respectfully. Watergate didn't talk much with his shadow guard. He directly picked up the 3 sealed scrolls on his desk and walked to the front of the shadow guard. Send 3 Kage guards to deliver these scrolls to the 3 Kages of the land of wind, the land of water, the land of mist, and the land of earth. After delivering the scrolls, help them open the scrolls. I believe that after they see the contents of the scrolls, they will decide to come to Woodleaf Village. Don't be in a hurry to leave, come back with them. This intelligence mission is very important, and it is very likely that someone will intercept you. So if things go wrong, immediately destroy the scrolls and use the Flying Thunder God Jutsu I taught you. Be sure to do your best to save your life. No matter how important the mission is, it is not as important as your life. Listening to Watergate's words, the shadow guard who was half kneeling on the ground flashed a touch of emotion in his eyes. A person who can be so considerate of his subordinates, and even pass on his unique ninjutsu is simply unimaginable. Yes, the shadow guard lowered his head, and after a little gesture to Watergate, he immediately disappeared. Turning around, Watergate slowly opened the Ninja World map and carefully looked at it. Now the Akatsuki defeated the Cloud Village of the Land of Lightning and occupied the place where the Cloud Village was located. According to the 4th Raikage, in order to prepare for the war, the Cloud Village actually stored a lot of war materials. The 4th Raikage actually destroyed a lot of these war materials when he retreated with the remnants of the Cloud Village, but because of the time, there were actually a lot of war materials including explosive tags, kunai, and other important materials left behind. If the Akatsuki really used all these materials, it would be a big trouble for the 5 great ninja villages. Just now, Watergate sent out the scrolls to inform the Kage of the information obtained from the Raikage of the other 3 ninja villages, and he hoped that the 3 Kages could come and reconvene the meeting, or even directly form the ninja allied forces to gather all forces to attack the Akatsuki that was entrenched in the Cloud Village at this moment. He absolutely can't let the Akatsuki continue to attack the other ninja villages one by one, just like the previous sneak attack on the Cloud Village. This war doesn't seem to be as simple as I expected. Watergate's face was a bit dignified, and he secretly said in his heart, everything that happened in the Cloud Village is traceable, but the only thing I don't understand is why the Akatsuki made a large number of ninjas and civilians fall into a coma? If it was just to drag down the power of the Cloud Village, then why didn't they kill the civilians who fell into a coma or even the more threatening ninjas after the defeat of the Cloud Village? Chapter 599. In the Woodleaf Village of the Land of Fire, in a heavily guarded conference room, the Kage of the 5 major villages once again gathered together. As Watergate expected, after receiving his scroll, the Kage of the other 3 villages immediately took action. These Kage brought their trusted aides and the daimyo of their country to the Woodleaf Village. Under normal circumstances, the matters between ninja villages will not involve the daimyo of each country. After all, a ninja village is a collection of military forces of a country, and the Kage of each village is the supreme leader of the country's military group. In the ninja world, there has always been a dualistic system of separation of military and government. The daimyo and the Kage are independent of each other, but they also support each other to ensure the stable development of a country. But now, standing on the opposite side of the 5 major shinobi villages is an organization that wants to break the order of the shinobi world. Such an organization naturally won't follow the default mode of fighting between shinobi villages. The daimyo of each country is the face and symbol of the country, and there must be no mistakes. After settling the daimyo of their country, the Kage of each village also came to the conference room arranged by Watergate. Everyone was sitting in their own seat, and their faces were more or less heavy. Hokage-sama, has the situation reached such a serious point? Looking at Sandaime Watergate, Anoki, who is the oldest among them and has been in power for the longest time, said in a low voice. The White Zetsu army with the strength of more than 100,000 chunin, with excellent stealth ability and special ninjutsu. The Edo Tensei army composed of powerful people who have passed away and can't really die. Each of them is a tricky existence, and if you want to fight with such an enemy, you must be prepared for heavy losses. And the one who made Inoki feel the most pressure is the masked man who has a pair of powerful Sharingan and Rinnegan, who calls himself Uchiha Madara. The masked man's Sharingan must be at least 3 Tomo Mangekyo level, and according to the intelligence of all parties, the only one in the allied forces who can fight against the masked man is Hatake Kakashi, who also has a Mangekyo Sharingan. However, Kakashi didn't have the blood of the Uchiha clan, so Kakashi couldn't fully exert the power of the Sharingan. Although Woodleaf also has Byakugan, one of the 3 major dojutsu, but Byakugan's ability is more inclined towards support, it is still greatly lacking compared to Sharingan and Rinnegan in combat. Did they really have to rely on human lives to fight against the masked man? But in order to defeat this masked man, how many powerful ninjas will die on the battlefield? Such a loss can't be summed up with a simple number. After all, every powerful ninja is precious to the village. Everyone, although I don't want to raise the morale of others and destroy our own prestige. But the power possessed by Akatsuki organization is indeed beyond our village in all aspects. If it's just a single ninja village fighting against Akatsuki organization, to put it bluntly, any one of us will lose without a doubt. Watergate glanced at the Kage of each village and said with a dignified expression, "But we're not just going to fight against the Akatsuki alone." Hearing Watergate's words, everyone felt a huge pressure in their hearts, and even fell into silence. However, among the 5 shadows, one of them stood up from his seat and spoke to the other 4 with a firm expression. This person was the youngest of the 5 Kages, the 5th Kazekage Gaara, who had been a Kage for the shortest time. Just like the judgment of the 4th Reikage AI, because of his young age, Gaara still has a lot of spirit left in him that is different from the other Kage. He's not afraid of failure, he's not afraid of sacrifice, he has a different kind of confidence and persistence for victory and the future. Our 5 ninja villages have different advantages. Sunegakure's poison and puppet technique, Cloud's ninjutsu and lightning release secret technique, Mist's assassination and infiltration technique, Rock's close combat and earth release secret technique, and Woodleaf Village's fire release ninjutsu and various secret techniques are things that the Akatsuki can't have. We are afraid of the Akatsuki, but they are also afraid of us. Otherwise, why didn't the Akatsuki dare to attack other ninja villages even though they had already invaded the Cloud Village, but instead of attacking other ninja villages they stayed in the Cloud Village? In fact, although Gaara's words are somewhat reasonable, they still can't stand up to scrutiny. But at this moment, the Kage gathered here don't need a logical analysis. What they need is someone who can bring confidence to everyone. Originally, this role should actually fall on Watergate, who is very strong in both personal strength and village strength. But they didn't expect that Gaara, the youngest of the 5 Kages, would take on such a responsibility. Watergate took a deep look at Gaara. Obviously, he was also quite envious of Gaara's fearless spirit. He also had this kind of spirit before, but as time passed, this kind of attitude slowly disappeared from Watergate's heart. After all, the higher the position, the more things that need to be considered and estimated. Such an attitude is not suitable for the leader of a ninja village. Kazekage is right. Seeing Gaara stand up, Watergate also directly expressed his attitude. There are some things that we can't avoid. At the time of the 5 Kages tournament, the masked man has already told us about his crazy Eye of the Moon project. Once such a plan is implemented, whether it is ordinary people or ninjas, they will all become victims of this plan. Indeed, the Akatsuki is very strong. However, given our current position, we have no room for compromise at all. I have gathered all of you here. In fact, I want to discuss a feasible plan to resist Akatsuki organization with everyone. All the decisions we made during the 5 Kages tournament, now I think it's time to adjust them. The Akatsuki has already made a move, and we must not become the passive party. What we need is to get a certain result in a short time, not just to get us out of such a passive state. More importantly, we need to create some results to boost the morale of the entire ninja allied forces. The people are motivated. We have a real hope of victory. Chapter 600. History has proven countless times that when facing a powerful enemy together, the cooperation between all sides will increase. The efficiency of cooperation between people will rise to an extremely incredible level. There will be no wrangling and competition for interests during the 5 Kage tournament. This meeting went very smoothly, so smoothly that even Minato felt a little absent-minded. This meeting basically divided the combat forces and logistics forces of the 5 major ninja villages. The elite ninjas of all aspects of the 5 major ninja villages were scattered and mixed together. And this kind of mix is not a simple and crude mix, but a real organic combination after considering the abilities of the people in each ninja village. On the battlefield, the ninja allied forces were divided into 5 units. First unit, Mid-Distance Joint Army Unit. This unit was formed by Cloud Village's Ninja Darui as the commander of the unit. Most of its members are ninjas who rely on weapons and hidden weapons as their main means of attack. Second unit, Close Combat Joint Army Unit. This unit was formed by Rock Village's Ninja Kitsuchi as the commander of the unit. As the name suggests, this unit is a unit that is good at close combat among the troops of the ninja allied forces. Its role in the battle is very important, mainly to kill and contain the enemy. Although the 100,000 white Zetsu troops of Akatsuki are powerful, in fact, they are more inclined to ninjutsu type. This unit that specializes in close combat will definitely cause great damage to them. Third unit, Mid-Distance Joint Army Unit. This unit was formed by Hitaki Kakashi of Woodleaf Village as the commander of the unit. Although it is called a close combat unit, in fact, this unit is a comprehensive unit. Among them, there are ninjas who are good at fighting, and also ninjas who are proficient in medical ninjutsu. Of course, there are also ninjas who are good at sealing. After all, among the combat forces of the Akatsuki, the Edo Tensei is a unit that cannot be defeated by conventional means, and can only be sealed by sealing. Fourth unit, Long Distance Joint Army Unit. This unit was formed by Nara Shikamaru of Woodleaf Village as the commander of the unit. Most of the ninjas in this unit are proficient in long-distance attack ninjutsu, and some members are good at defense to protect ninjutsu-type ninjas. In addition to providing long-range support to the battlefield, this unit would also roam around the battlefield to provide support to the areas that needed it. Fifth unit, Special Combat Unit, led by Woodleaf Ninja Village Inazuka Kaku, led by ninjas who use special ninjutsu or special fighting methods. Although it's called an army because their specialties and skills are different, it's actually just a scattered name. When the ninja allied forces need all the special talents, they will be transferred from this army. In addition to these 5 troops on the battlefield, there were several other troops that had been divided up. The first was the intelligence unit led by Inoichi Yamanaka of the Woodleaf Village and Ao of the Mist Village. They were mainly responsible for battlefield communication and information transmission. Secondly, the 5th Mizukage Mei directly led a group of ninjas to guard the daimyo. After all, the daimyo was very important to a country, and there must be no accidents. The third was the infiltration reconnaissance team led by Woodleaf Ninja Anko Mitarashi. In this war, an important part of the Akatsuki's ability to fight against the ninja allied forces was the Edo Tensei unit, and the Edo Tensei unit was used by Kabuto, who had joined the Akatsuki. Although it's still not clear to what extent Kabuto has mastered the Edo Tensei jutsu, from the information of the 4th Reikage, Kabuto has collected a lot of strong DNA. Whether it's the self-conscious gold horn and silver horn summoned by Kabuto, or the controlled Sandame Reikage, all of them were a great hindrance in the process of the 4th Reikage's retreat. As the former disciple of Orochimaru, Anko Mitarashi knew Orochimaru's action pattern better than the average ninja. Since Kabuto claimed to have inherited Orochimaru's mantle, and the 4th Reikage said that his body shape and aura were very similar to Orochimaru, the ninja allied forces could only let Anko lead a group of ninjas to sneak into the enemy's territory to investigate Kabuto's information. The fourth was the surprise attack unit led by Kankuro Sunagakure. Instead of an army, it was more like an expanded version of a ninja squad. The ninjas in it had different abilities, but they could support and help each other. The reason why the 5 Kage set up such a squad was in fact, hoping to use their respective strength to test the Akatsuki's strength to a certain extent. The fifth was the medical unit specially established for the war. Originally, Watergate hoped that Tsunade in the Wood Leaf Village would be the leader of this unit, but Tsunade has been in a semi-retired state after marrying Jiraiya. Although Watergate very much wanted to let Tsunade come out, because of the urgent situation of the war, Watergate could only leave the position of the commander of the medical unit empty, and let Tsunade's 2 disciples, Shizune and Haruno Sakura, serve as the temporary commanders of the medical unit. The last part was a completely auxiliary force, the Perception Force. The Perception Unit was not an independent unit. Instead, it was scattered and integrated into every previous main battle unit. The temporary commander of the Perception Force was Hope, the right-hand man of the 4th Raikage of the Cloud Village in the Land of Lightning. Although it seemed that this division was a little complicated, it was a division that the Kage of the 5 great ninja villages gathered together and discussed together with their respective think tanks. In addition to these forces used for combat or auxiliary combat, the 5 Kage also formed the head council that represented the highest power of the ninja allied forces, and selected the intelligent Wood Leaf Ninja Narashikaku and the Cloud Village Ninja Mabai to assist the head council. Removing all factors that affect combat power, at this moment, the ninja allied forces is no longer a loose alliance between the 5 great ninja villages. At this moment, the ninja allied forces has become a force that includes almost all ninjas in the ninja world. The various ninja villages put down their grudges and cooperated with each other to fight against the Akatsuki that threatened the future of the entire ninja world. In the words of Minato Watergate, the ninja allied forces at this moment represents the power of the entire ninja world. And such a force is the strongest force to guard the future of the ninja world. Chapter 601. Land of Lightning, Cloud Village. Above the Raikage building, which originally belonged to the 4th Raikage AI, Uchiha Obito was standing at the top of the building, staring at the ninja allied forces that were constantly gathering outside the Cloud Village. The Cloud Village itself was located at a relatively high altitude, and there were often fierce winds sweeping through the Cloud Village. At this moment, Obito, who was wearing a navy blue robe and a white-gray mask, was standing on the roof. His robe was fluttering in the wind, and an iron-blooded aura of war was emitted from his body. The final battle? That's not bad. There was a slight smile on his face hidden under the mask. Not long ago, Obito directly extracted all the chakra of the 9 tails and the 8 tails from the golden horn, silver horn, and mermaid skin, but he didn't directly inject them into the Geto Mazo. After all, once the Geto Mazo gathered the aura of the 9 tails, Obito wasn't sure what would happen. So now that he saw the 5 great ninja villages gathered outside the Cloud Village, Obito was actually a little happy, especially after sensing the aura of the 8 tails and the 9 tails from the ninja allied forces through the Rinnegan and the Inyang release inherited from Uchiha Madara. Obito also made up his mind to carry out the final battle. Zetsu. There was no one around Obito, but he suddenly shouted with his slightly low and hoarse voice. After Obito called out Black Zetsu's name, Black Zetsu's body slowly emerged from the floor of the top floor of the building. After Black Zetsu appeared, he stood directly next to Obito, his head slightly lowered, apparently waiting for Obito's order. Start the White Zetsu army to prepare for the attack. Tonight, we will launch a surprise attack on the Ninja Allied Forces base. This time, don't hold back. Do as much damage as possible to the Ninja Allied Forces. I have already sensed that the 9 Tails and the Hachibi's people column force are inside the Ninja Allied Forces base at the moment, but the Ninja Allied Forces will definitely not let the Hachibi and the 9 Tails go out to fight easily. There must be a lot of guards around them, and Haku will never be able to break through such a defense quietly. Therefore, what we need to do now is to use pain to tell them that in terms of basic combat power, they have no way of resisting us. Although the last battle with the Cloud Village exposed the Edo Tensei, after all, only 3 Edo Tensei appeared. The Ninja Allied Forces can't imagine how powerful the Edo Tensei are. After mistakenly estimating our high-end combat power, the ninja allied forces will definitely send their own Jonin or even Kage-level powerhouses to suppress the White Zetsu army. At this time, we can take the opportunity to send out the Edo Tensei and cause enough damage to these arrogant Jonin and Kage. At that time, due to the war situation, they will have to send their own people, column force, to fight us. At this time, it's time for us to capture the Hachibi column force and the Nine Tails column force. Listening to Obito's words, Black Zetsu, who had been silent all this time, couldn't help but show some excitement on his face. Yes, I will arrange it now. After Black Zetsu said such a sentence to Obito, he immediately merged back into the floor of the building. Obito casually glanced at the place where Black Zetsu disappeared with his eyes, and slowly covered his left eye with his left hand. Feeling the subtle fluctuations of the Rinnegan in his left eye, Obito's eyes also became sharp. Black Zetsu once sneaked into the Woodleaf village to retrieve a pair of Rinnegan that belonged to Nagato, but after returning, he only gave him one. Moreover, Black Zetsu has always insisted that he only got one Rinnegan from the Woodleaf village. From the bottom of his heart, Obito didn't trust Black Zetsu that much. After all, Black Zetsu's identity really made Obito feel that there was no way to fully trust him. After Uchiha Madara got the Rinnegan, he combined the power of the Rinnegan with his own spiritual force. If this is really the case, then Black Zetsu's loyalty to Madara is simply unshakable. Obito still clearly remembers that the reason why Uchiha Madara saved him from the battlefield of Kanobi Bridge was not because he cared about his back as a senior of the Uchiha clan, but because he hoped that Obito could be his agent after he left the world, helping him monitor and guide Nagato, and then when the time is right, let Nagato perform Geto, Rinnegan Tensei Jutsu to resurrect him. Now that Nagato is dead, he also put one Rinnegan in his eye. Such a thing is actually contrary to Uchiha Madara's plan, especially now that the other Rinnegan is likely to be in Black Zetsu's body. This naturally made Obito more vigilant against Black Zetsu, and since he has doubts, Obito naturally won't sit still. Activating the power of his Manjikyu Sharingan in his right eye, Obito's figure slowly disappeared from his place. After a few flashes, Obito also came to the room where Yakushi Kabuto was. This room was arranged very simply by Yakushi Kabuto. There was a simple wooden bed with neat bedding, and even a thin layer of dust on it. Obviously, it hasn't been touched for a long time. There were a few large bookshelves and a table with a variety of experimental equipment in the middle of the room. Yakushi Kabuto was obviously a research madman at the moment. However, Yakushi Kabuto wasn't like Do Chong, who was studying at his table, but was sitting on a chair, as if waiting for someone to visit him. When Obito's figure slowly appeared in Yakushi Kabuto's room, Yakushi Kabuto's eyes didn't have the slightest change. Instead, he had a feeling that everything was within his expectations. The feeling of arrogance directly showed on Yakushi Kabuto's face. In fact, Obito didn't like such a person very much, but such a person happened to be the easiest to control, so Obito forcibly suppressed his displeasure and said to Yakushi Kabuto, "I know that you and Black Zetsu have always been at odds, but now is the time of war. I believe you should also know what kind of mentality you should use to face the war, right?" Chapter 602. Since the ninja allied forces began to gather in front of the Cloud Village, Kabuto knew that Obito would definitely come to see him. After all, the 100,000 White Zetsu army led by Black Zetsu and the Edo Tensei army under his command were the main forces of this war. But due to various reasons, even though the Edo Tensei army had collected a lot of DNA from the deceased, there was no way for the Edo Tensei army's combat strength to be enhanced. So in Kabuto's mind, Obito would definitely come to him to find a way to control more Edo Tensei. But at this moment, the moment Obito appeared, he actually said such threatening words to Kabuto. This was something that Kabuto didn't expect. Although Obito's words were beyond Kabuto's expectations, Kabuto wasn't so panicked, because no matter what Obito said, his Edo Tensei was an important force that Obito couldn't give up. In other words, Kabuto was still somewhat fearless. Seeing that his words didn't make Kabuto feel a sense of crisis, Obito didn't feel much surprise. After all, Kabuto had a long experience in hiding, concealing, and controlling his feelings wasn't that difficult for him. This battle is very important. Even if it's the final battle, there's nothing wrong with it. So I absolutely won't allow some internal reasons to lead to the failure of this war. I think you also know this. Obito slowly paced back and forth in Yakushi's room. He walked to a table full of instruments, picked up an experimental test tube-like glass container, and slowly rubbed it with his gloved hand. I have roughly formulated the next strategy, and the Edo Tensei in your hands will play an important role in it. But now it seems that the power of the Edo Tensei is not strong enough, so I came this time to find a way to let you control more Edo Tensei, and then enhance the power in our hands. Sure enough. Hearing Obito's words, Kabuto's slightly suspended heart was also relieved. No matter what kind of attitude Obito uses to treat him, no matter what kind of words Obito uses to modify his behavior, in fact, Obito's ultimate goal is still to strengthen the strength of the Edo Tensei as expected. Alchemist Pocket didn't take the threatening words from before to heart, or it could be said that Alchemist Pocket hid them deep in his heart. Slowly standing up from his seat, Yakushi tidied up his robe and said to Uchiha Obito, "Actually, I've also considered how to strengthen my control over the Edo reincarnation. After a few rounds of thought and experimentation, I finally found a way to strengthen my control over the Edo reincarnation." He adjusted the glasses on the bridge of his nose slightly, and a wisp of light flashed through his eyes. The Edo Tensei itself is a forbidden technique developed by the second Hokage of Woodleaf Village, Tobarama Senju, but due to various factors, this ninjutsu wasn't fully developed. Later, one of the three Sannin, Orochimaru, found this incomplete ninjutsu from the Scroll of Seals, and thought that he could develop a ninjutsu that transcends life and death and obtain eternal life from it. During the study of eternal life, Orochimaru gradually perfected this ninjutsu. However, Orochimaru himself has undergone many transformations on his body, and the nature of his chakra has also changed a lot. In the end, this ninjutsu has almost become a ninjutsu specially made for Orochimaru, and it's difficult for others to use it. The reason why I can use this ninjutsu is that I used the power of Sage Mode to forcibly integrate Orochimaru's cells and chakra, which made my chakra nature change to a certain extent. But such a change is still not enough. My own chakra nature is still a certain degree of difference from Orochimaru's own chakra nature. If I want to improve my ability to control the Edo Tensei, then I must get more of Orochimaru's chakra, and make my chakra more similar to Orochimaru's own chakra nature. And I already have a target for the person who has a lot of Orochimaru's chakra, that is, Orochimaru's former disciple Mitarashi Anko, who has the first-generation curse implanted in his body. There must be a lot of Orochimaru's pure chakra in the curse mark on his neck. Mitarashi Anko? A familiar name rushed into Uchiha Obito's ears. After all, Mitarashi Anko and Obito can be regarded as ninjas of the same generation. But as Orochimaru's disciple, Mitarashi Anko actually has almost no intersection with the ordinary Uchiha Obito. At most, the two have met a few times because of the war, that's all. But from his memory, Uchiha Obito confirmed the truth of Kabuto's words. Is that so? What I need is Mitarashi Anko. What a coincidence. Just before, Uchiha Obito has received information from White Zetsu's clone lurking outside the Cloud Village, that a team led by suspected Woodleaf ninja Mitarashi Anko sneaked into the Cloud Village. At that time, Obito didn't care. After all, with Mitarashi Anko's ability, he couldn't really sneak into the core area of the Cloud Village, which was built by Akatsuki. But now, Kabuto actually said that Mitarashi Anko was the key to strengthening the Edo Tensei, which made Obito feel a little bit sleepy, as if he had received a pillow. Uchiha Obito began to quickly make hand seals, and a ninjutsu that needs to be combined with the power of Rinnegan was quickly cast by Obito. Originally, because of the blowing wind, there were no clouds in the sky above the Cloud Village, but at this moment, slightly dark clouds slowly condensed, and after a little brewing, it began to slowly drizzle. Ninjutsu, Rain Tiger Freedom Jutsu. Originally, when this ninjutsu was cast, it needed to cooperate with the rainy weather, but now with the power of Rinnegan, it actually created a sporadic drizzle that covered the entire Cloud Village. Chapter 603. The patter of rain drifted down from the sky. Although a part of the earth chakra was integrated into it because the content was very small, it wasn't so easy to detect. The cloud village itself was located in a highland area. There were almost no tall trees. Most of the area was covered with large areas of lawn and sporadic low shrubs. Without tall trees, the rain tiger free jutsu used by Obito almost directly covered everyone's body without any hindrance. Mitarashi Anko, who was carrying out the infiltration mission, tried her best to find the trace of Kabuto and then find an opportunity to stop the Edo Tensei team. But the security of the Cloud Village was completely beyond Mitarashi Anko's imagination. She wandered around the periphery for a long time and almost walked around the entire Cloud Village. But Mitarashi Anko almost didn't find any loopholes in the defense of the Cloud Village. During this period of time, the Akatsuki's full operation and a large number of manpower and material resources were invested in the Cloud Village, which made the originally heavily defended Cloud Village become a watertight iron bucket. Such a situation made Anko impatient. After all, the war is getting closer and closer. If she doesn't do anything, then the Allied ninja forces will have to face a group of dead powerhouses who can't be destroyed but can only be sealed. How much damage will the Allied ninja forces suffer if that happens? Anko simply couldn't imagine. Damn it! What should we do to sneak into the Cloud Village? Anko's temper was not so good, especially after suffering a huge pressure. She finally couldn't suppress her anger. The three members of the reconnaissance team, Abure Moda, Hyuga Takuma, and Lan Hua, although they didn't directly burst out like Anko, their faces were also very ugly. Especially when the sky became very gloomy and even started to drizzle, the mood of the four members of the Red Bean squad, including Red Bean, also became gloomy. Mitarashi Jonin, what should we do now? As soon as we entered the Cloud Village, we were already detected by the other party. But because our mission is urgent, we took the risk to enter the Cloud Village, hoping to find as much information about Kabuto as possible. Now we have been in such an environment for so long, if we don't leave, even if the Akatsuki in the Cloud Village reacts slowly, they will definitely attack us. Since we can't find the possibility to sneak in now, should we retreat? In the Anko squad, Hyuga Takuma, a ninja of the Hyuga clan, suggested to Anko. That's right, after the infiltration team led by Anko entered the Cloud Village, it wasn't only the White Zetsu that discovered the traces of the Anko squad, but the Anko squad also discovered the White Zetsu that wasn't very strong. After all, in the Anko squad, all the members were Jonin or special Jonin level ninjas, and among them, Hyuga Takuma and Abure Mota were very powerful perception ninjas. Although they couldn't directly pinpoint the location of the White Zetsu clone, they could still detect it. Hyuga Takuma himself was actually a calm temperament, or a temperament that was not willing to take risks. Being able to promise Anko to invade the Cloud Village without being discovered was already because of the importance of the mission. But since there was no possibility of completing the mission, Hyuga Takuma naturally put forward his own ideas. Seeing Hyuga Takuma put forward the idea of giving up the mission, Anko also forcibly suppressed the anger in her heart. After all, although Mitarashi Anko would find it hard to control herself when facing Orochimaru and anyone related to him, now was not the time for her to be willful. The lives of her three teammates were also a heavy burden on her heart. She cast her eyes to her other two teammates except for Hyuga Takuma. Although Lan Hana's slightly bearded face was still a little hesitant, the other teammate, Abure Mota, had already slowly nodded. Although she didn't speak, she obviously agreed with Hyuga Takuma's idea of retreating. Sure enough, can only retreat? Mitarashi Anko was very clear that in a battle between two armies, any perception-type ninja is very important. If it wasn't for the importance of this mission, the 4th Hokage Wave Kaze Watergate wouldn't have arranged two of the best perception ninjas in the Woodleaf Village to be in his team. Since there is no possibility of completing the mission, Anko naturally has to preserve some strength for the Woodleaf Village. She can't become a sinner who consumes the village's strength for no reason. For a qualified ninja, the mission and the village are always in a higher position than their own feelings and will. Good. Let's retreat. Almost gritting her teeth, Anko gave the order to retreat to her three teammates. Obviously, after hearing Mitarashi Anko's order to retreat, whether it was Lan Hana, who had a complicated look in her eyes, or Dima Hyuga and Abure Mota, who clearly expressed their intention to retreat. All of them had a relaxed look in their eyes. After all, staying at the enemy's rear without any reinforcements is actually a great psychological pressure for ninjas. Since they have decided to retreat, and it's very likely that they have been detected by the enemy, as the two ninjas with the strongest perception ability in the team, Hyuga Takuma and Abure Mota, also used their ninjutsu to find a suitable retreat route. Hyuga Takuma made hand seals, and his chakra gathered in his eyes. Blue veins popped out, and the white eyes opened. The still life around him instantly lost its color, turning into black and white in Hyuga Takuma's eyes. Abure Mota also released the parasite hidden in her body for detection, and in the blink of an eye, small black insects had already scattered in the surrounding space. The parasite itself is more sensitive to chakra than the ninjas, and when the first insect was drenched by the raindrops, Abure Mota's eyes hidden behind her glasses became serious. Not good, we were discovered. Chapter 604. The Banshee's perception of chakra is far beyond the human's perception ability. When the Banshee came in contact with the raindrops cast by Yin-Yang Release and Rain Tiger technique, it quickly noticed the faint chakra in them. How can ordinary raindrops contain chakra? Almost instantly, Abure Mao Tian already knew that the whereabouts of the four of them have been discovered. Hearing Abure Mao Tian's words, the other members of the scouting team also became nervous. Although they already knew that their whereabouts were exposed when they entered the Cloud Village, but now that Abure Mao Tian said this, it's not as simple as their whereabouts being discovered. It's very likely that their whereabouts have been completely grasped by the Akatsuki. How is it possible? How did they? Hearing Abure Mao Tian's words, Lan Hua couldn't help but say with a bit of surprise. But before she finished speaking, Lan Hua was completely speechless. Because Lan Hua keenly discovered that not far away from them, the air began to distort out of thin air. Before entering the Cloud Village, all the members of Mitarashi Anko's squad read the joint statistics of the 5 great ninja villages about the members of Akatsuki. The masked man called Uchiha Madara, who can use space ninjutsu and single-handedly started the 4th Shinobi World War, has some understanding of this masked man. Isn't this a sign of space ninjutsu used in the records? Seeing such a sign, everyone couldn't help but get nervous. After all, although the members of Mitarashi Anko's squad have the strength of Jonin or Special Jonin, in fact, only Mitarashi Anko and Lan Hua have the strength of a Jonin. The other 2 members, Hyuga Takuma and Abure Mao Tian, are actually Special Jonin because of their superior perception ability. Specifically speaking of combat ability, they are only at the level of an elite Chunin. Get ready to fight. Looking at the appearance of space folds, Mitarashi Anko immediately began to shout loudly, and one of her hands took out a kunai and put it on her chest. However, Red Bean also placed her other hand behind her back and signaled to her 3 teammates. The situation is critical. Retreat when the opportunity arises. Dima Hyuga, Abure Mota, and Lan Hana also tensed up after seeing Anko Mitarashi's sign language. Indeed, according to the intelligence, the masked man's strength was unfathomable, and he wasn't an existence that could be resisted by Jonin or even Chunin-level ninjas. Can't find you. Obito's figure slowly emerged from the space ripples. He spoke with a strange emphasis, like a child who was addicted to hide and seek and found his little friend hiding in a secret place. He spoke with a bit of excitement and banter, but compared to a child, Obito's voice was undoubtedly more terrifying and threatening. If he was discovered by Obito, not only would he lose the game, he would also lose his life. Soft Fist Technique. 8 trigrams 64 palms. After seeing Uchiha Obito's body completely appear in space, Hyuga Takuma, who is the best at close combat in the 4-person team, immediately launched an attack. As a close combat ninja, Hyuga Takuma is very clear about his duty. He needs to do his best to restrict Obito's movements and create opportunities for his companions. Although he can't defeat Obito, at least there is a possibility of escaping. Starting from where Hyuga Takuma was, the 8 trigrams field was instantly spread out, and sticky chakra was released to hinder the opponent's movements. Seeing Hyuga Takuma attack, Aburame Mao Tian also used the Aburame clan's signature ninjutsu, Parasite Worm. A large number of black parasites rushed out from Mao Tian's skin. Although each parasite was small, when a large number of parasites gathered together, they directly formed a black torrent. Secret technique. Insect Jade. The original secret technique. Insect Jade is used to completely restrict the enemy inside the parasite and then absorb the enemy's chakra, making the enemy lose the ability to fight and even their life. But at this moment, in order to leave room for Hyuga Takuma to attack, the parasites turned into a black ribbon under the control of Mao Tian and surrounded Obito's body at high speed. Seeing that Obito was controlled by the parasites, Hyuga Takuma didn't hesitate to rush forward, with a large number of chakra on his hands, aiming at all the acupuncture points on Obito's body. Hyuga Takuma wanted to seal all the acupuncture points on Obito's body, and then make him lose the ability to use space ninjutsu. As long as Uchiha Obito can't use space ninjutsu, their team members have a chance to escape. The struggle of an ant. Looking at Takuma Hyuga rushing towards him and Aburame Mao Tian in the distance who was constantly controlling the parasites in an attempt to control him, Obito's eyes became colder and colder. Once upon a time he was also like this in order to protect his teammates and his own beliefs. Even if he saw a powerful existence, he didn't have the slightest fear, but it was precisely because of this that he lost his most beloved person and half of his body. Until now, the regret of losing something precious was burning his heart all the time. It is precisely because of this burning feeling that the figures of Hyuga Takuma and Aburame Mao Tian are more and more dazzling in Obito's eyes. Slightly lowering his head, his 3 Tomo Sharingan instantly transformed into Mangekyo Sharingan, and Mangekyo Sharingan Dojutsu Kamui was instantly activated. Uchiha Obito's body began to become illusory, and Uchiha Obito directly walked out of the parasites that were surging around him at high speed. Seeing that Obito directly ignored the parasites and the shackles of the 8 trigrams domain, Hyuga Takuma was very surprised. But at this moment, Hyuga Takuma was in a state of high-speed movement, and it takes some time for him to change his technique. But will Obito give Hyuga Takuma such a time? Obito also accelerated his speed, and his illusory body rushed straight in the direction of Hyuga Takuma. Obito used this technique on Killer B, the Hachibi column force, and now he is using it on Hyuga Takuma. Obito's illusory body directly passed through Hyuga Takuma's body. At the moment of passing through, Obito immediately condensed his chakra into a black iron rod and directly inserted it into Hyuga Takuma's heart. Chapter 605. After the black iron staff pierced through Hyuga Takuma's heart without any hindrance, Obito didn't stop to check the result of his battle. Instead, he looked at Hyuga Takuma, who was standing slightly behind Takuma. Indifferently and decisively, he pulled out the black iron rod in his hand. Blood flowed directly from the round wound on Takuma's chest. His lifeless eyes were wide open, and his weak body fell directly to the ground. "Now it's your turn." Uchiha pointed the black iron staff in his hand at Aburame Mao Tian. His eyes were slowly filled with contempt for life. Seeing that Obito defeated Hyuga Takuma with a single blow, Anko Mitarashi and Lan Hua, as the team leaders, immediately rushed towards Aburame Mao Tian's location. As teammates, Anko Mitarashi and Lan Hua understood that Aburame Mao Tian wasn't the type of person who was good at fighting. Obito had already killed one of their companions. If the two of them didn't help Aburame Mao Tian, then Aburame Mao Tian herself would be doomed. Lan Hua. Anko Mitarashi shouted Lan Hua's name loudly, and her hands quickly formed hand seals. Hearing Anko Mitarashi's shout, Lan Hua also reacted quickly, and her hands also quickly formed hand seals. Currently, Anko Mitarashi and Lan Hua were still some distance away from Aburame Mao Tian, but Obito was very close to her, so if Anko Mitarashi and Lan Hua really want to save Aburame Mao Tian, then they must use long-range ninjutsu to prevent Obito from getting close to Aburame Mao Tian. Aburame Mao Tian wasn't without any fighting ability. She directly opened the huge jar on her back, and a large number of parasites rushed out of the jar, and under Aburame Mao Tian's control, they constantly flew and changed in the air. Anko Mitarashi. After all, Lan Hua and Abure Mao Tian were members of the same team, so there was some tacit understanding between them. Almost at the same time, the ninjutsu prepared by the three of them all attacked the place where Obito was. Ninjutsu, destruction of snakes, secret technique, parasites, cluster, wind release, thousand face wind. Anko Mitarashi opened her hands, and a number of poisonous snakes with strong venom drilled out of her sleeves one after another. A large number of snakes rushed towards Uchiha Obito like arrows. Almost 2/3 of the parasites controlled by Abure Mao Tian rushed towards Uchiha Obito. Uchiha Obito's body was surrounded by countless parasites. Lan Hua's Thousand Wind Jutsu is a ninjutsu that uses chakra to condense a large number of wind blades to attack. After seeing that Obito's body seemed to be controlled by Anko Mitarashi's poisonous snakes and Abure Mao Tian's parasites, she immediately controlled her chakra to condense wind blades to attack Obito's body that was already surrounded by the parasites and snakes. The sharp wind blades directly attacked the parasites and the poisonous snakes wrapped around Obito's body, but neither Abure Mao Tian nor Anko showed any distressed expression. Especially for Abure Mao Tian, she cultivated the parasites bit by bit with her own chakra, so the loss of a large number of parasites was simply unacceptable for her. But now, even if a large number of her parasites are dying, Abure Mao Tian can only suppress the reluctance in her heart and control the remaining 1/3 of the parasites to attach to her body. The chakra of the parasites themselves is fed back to Abure Mao Tian's body. Although a parasite's body didn't contain that much chakra, but when a large number of parasites gathered the weak chakra in their body and transferred it into Abure Mao Tian's body, the huge amount of chakra made Abure Mao Tian's meridians feel a little unbearable. After exchanging a glance with Anko Mitarashi and Lan Hua, the three of them simultaneously withdrew the chakra that they were using to maintain their ninjutsu. At the same time, Anko Mitarashi, Lan Hua, and Abure Mao Tian also directly retreated in 3 different directions. After all, Uchiha Obito was only one person, although Anko Mitarashi and the others retreated separately so that the 3 of them couldn't take care of each other. But chasing them also needed to confirm their whereabouts one by one. This undoubtedly bought time for the other teammates who weren't being chased. Ignoring whether Uchiha Obito, who was wearing a mask to hide his identity, was injured by their joint attack, Anko Mitarashi just desperately rushed in the direction of leaving the Cloud Village. Even if her legs had become sore because of a large number of chakra, and even if her chakra was showing signs of exhaustion, Anko Mitarashi still used her will to drive her body to continue rushing. She felt like there was a grim reaper behind her who was holding a scythe that harvested souls and was staring at her covetously. Run, run, run. There was a voice constantly shouting in her heart. You must go back alive. You must. Along the way, Anko Mitarashi shuttled between the bushes that weren't tall enough, trying to avoid all the raindrops that might fall on her body. Just as Mitarashi Anko was running for her life, a chill suddenly spread from Anko's spine to her entire body. The feeling of danger. Almost instinctively, Anko Mitarashi controlled her body that was moving at high speed and directly rolled to the side. Ding! At the moment when Anko Mitarashi dodged her body, a black iron rod was directly inserted in the place where Anko Mitarashi was just a moment ago. It has been a long time since Anko Mitarashi separated from her other 2 teammates. At least one of her other 2 teammates may have died in the hands of Uchiha Obito. It seems that she can only go all out, right? Looking at Uchiha Obito, who was standing in front of her with a black iron rod in his hand, Anko Mitarashi's eyes flashed with a trace of determination. Quickly making hand seals, Anko Mitarashi directly rushed in the direction of Uchiha Obito. Ninjutsu, Double Snake Killing Jutsu. Chapter 606. 2 huge pythons as thick as an adult's thigh directly rushed out of Anko's clothes after she finished the hand seals. One of them wrapped around Anko's body, and the other one rushed directly towards Uchiha Obito like a ghost, directly entrenched on Uchiha Obito's body. Seeing that Obito was controlled by the pythons, Anko also quickly approached Obito's side and put her hand together with Obito's gloved hand. As long as she can use her hand and Obito's hand to make the U hand seal at the same time, then her and Obito's chakra will be completely absorbed by the two pythons, and the huge chakra will directly detonate the two pythons, and then kill the two people entangled by the pythons at the same time. This is the most powerful ninjutsu that Anko learned from Orochimaru, and it's an S-class forbidden technique used to perish together with the opponent. Why don't you guys have any creativity at all? In the end, one or two of you think you can really perish together with me. It's really boring. Looking at Mitarashi Anko, although he was wearing a mask, Obito's eyes revealed a very obvious look of contempt. From Uchiha Obito's words, it's not difficult to see that the people who were chased by Uchiha Obito before Anko also wanted to perish together with Obito, but obviously, it didn't work. However, Mitarashi Anko still has full confidence in this double snake fusion jutsu. After all, this ninjutsu is an S-class forbidden technique personally developed by the genius of a generation, or rather, the ghost of Orochimaru. No matter how much Mitarashi Anko resents Orochimaru, the fear and respect for Orochimaru that was cultivated since childhood made Mitarashi Anko believe that once this ninjutsu is completed, she will definitely cause enough damage to Uchiha Obito. Grabbing Uchiha Obito's hand, she made the U hand seal with his hand, and all the chakra in Anko's body began to pour into Obito's body. Under normal circumstances, Anko's own chakra will guide all the chakra out of Obito's body and inject it into the two pythons, and then detonate them at the same time. Whether it's the caster or the target, they will die at the same time. Anko used the U hand seal with Uchiha Obito to transfer her chakra into Uchiha Obito's body, but when Anko released a large amount of chakra, she found that there was no way for her chakra to invade Uchiha Obito's body. This feeling is like the hand seal with her is not Uchiha Obito, but a piece of wood or a stone. Wood? Stone? When such a thought appeared in Anko's mind, an idea rose in her mind. From the information collected by the 5 great shinobi villages, the masked man has the Manjikyu Sharingan, which is far superior to the 3 Tomo Sharingan. After the hypnotic eye of the Sharingan evolved into the Manjikyu Sharingan, there must be a qualitative leap. So is it possible that she really unknowingly fell under the genjutsu of the Sharingan, and the target she is controlling now is not the real masked man? Catching the surprise in Anko's eyes, Uchiha Obito's eyes finally flashed with some appreciation. Sure enough, you are worthy of being a ninja trained by Orochimaru. Although you were abandoned by Orochimaru in the end, your ninja accomplishment is also one of the best. You didn't even realize what was going on at the last moment. Worthy of praise, but unfortunately, it's useless. You should be glad that you are still useful to my plan. Otherwise, you can only be buried in a foreign land like your other 3 companions. After Obito finished his sentence, his body slowly faded, and even his physical features gradually changed, turning into a wooden puppet of the same size. This is the strategy achieved by Obito and his hidden jutsu, would release, would clone, combined with the genjutsu of the Sharingan. When the genjutsu was actively removed by Obito, Anko finally saw the real situation. At this moment, Obito was looking at Anko and the wood clone, who were entangled by the 2 pythons with a bit of ridicule. It was like watching a funny play, and then being driven by the funny behavior of the actors in it. He couldn't help but want to sneer. Originally, Anko wanted to use the twin snake fusion jutsu to perish together with Obito, but at this moment it became a fatal action to restrict her movements. Anko could only watch Obito slowly walk towards her, but there was no way to respond at all. Turning his hand into a hand blade, Obito walked to Anko's side and slashed his hand on the back of Anko's neck. The powerful force directly caused Anko to fall into a coma, and the double snake internecine jutsu, was also cancelled because Anko fell into a coma. Reaching out his hand, Obito roughly grabbed Mitarashi Anko, who had already fallen into a coma. Like holding a piece of merchandise, he lifted Mitarashi Anko by her collar. Activating his Mangekyo Dojutsu, Kamui, spatial ripples were instantly generated, and Obito and Anko were both absorbed into it. In Yakushi Pocket's room, spatial ripples were generated out of thin air, and Uchiha Obito directly appeared in the room with Anko in his hand. Seeing the spatial ripples, Yakushi Pocket was quite anxious to greet him. Without greeting Uchiha Obito, Yakushi Pocket directly took Anko from Obito's hand. He flipped open Mitarashi Anko's collar, and the 3 Tomo runes appeared in Medicine Master's Pocket's field of vision. Slowly placing his palm on the curse mark on Anko's neck, he used his chakra to feel the curse mark, and a trace of excitement flashed in Yakushi Pocket's eyes. Sure enough, as he expected, the original curse mark engraved on Anko's neck contains a large amount of Orochimaru's chakra and Yugo's mutated Senjutsu chakra. As long as all of this chakra is extracted and integrated into his chakra, then not only will his Edo Tensei technique be improved, his strength will also be greatly improved. Chapter 607. I'll leave her to you, but I also hope that you won't give me a result that I don't want to see. Looking at Kabuto's eyes full of excitement, Obito's tone was quite indifferent. For Uchiha Obito, the so-called fetters are simply the most useless thing. What Uchiha Obito likes the most now is the way he gets along with Kabuto and Black Zetsu. Everyone has their own pursuit, their own goals. Although it's inevitable for them to be suspicious of each other, as long as they don't relax their vigilance, they won't lose anything. Originally, after seeing Mitarashi Anko and perceiving a large amount of strange chakra belonging to Orochimaru from the curse mark on Anko's neck, such a situation made Kabuto's heart flutter a little. Even the state of mind that has been maintained for a long time became not so calm. Obito's words are not only a threat to Kabuto, but also to let Kabuto adjust his mentality. The reason why he can cooperate with Obito and Black Zetsu like this is because he still has value. Once he uses this value as his capital to run rampant, then he will eventually be kicked away by Uchiha Obito and Black Zetsu, and even his life will be taken away. Don't worry. Kabuto put his hand on his glasses, slightly adjusted his glasses, and said to Obito very concisely. Then he directly picked up Mitarashi Anko and put her on a medical bed in his room that is obviously used for human experiments. At the latest tonight, I will let you see the results. Hearing Baguette's words, Obito slowly nodded his head. Time passed little by little. The sky was gradually shrouded by the light muslin of the night. Tonight, the moon is bright, and there are few stars. Only a full moon is reflected in the sky. The cold moonlight sprinkled on the earth. The originally slightly reddish-brown soil at this moment is like sprinkled with a layer of silver powder, becoming a little sparkling. What is colder than the moonlight is Uchiha Obito's eyes at this moment. One red and one white eyes, at this moment, reflected a fierce and cold brilliance. Everything is ready. Black Zetsu's figure slowly appeared beside Obito, and reported his situation to him. Very good. Then start preparing for the attack. When the army of 100,000 White Zetsu starts the attack, select some of the more evolved clones and send them to Kabuto. Yes, not long ago, Kabuto informed Obito that he has successfully extracted Orochimaru's chakra from Mitarashi Anko's body. After a short period of adaptation, his chakra has further transformed. Now, he can summon a large number of Edo Tensei's clones without full control. Since the second phase of the battle has been completed, Uchiha Obito didn't suppress his strong emotions, directly ordered Black Zetsu to attack. Every white clone have ATSS proficient in stealth. As long as the strength of the clone doesn't surpass that of the White Zetsu clones, then the White Zetsu clones are almost perfect. Among the White Zetsu clones, there are a certain number of White Zetsu clones that have reached the level of Jonin or even Elite Jonin. When these White Zetsu use stealth and transformation ninjutsu, even a Kage-level powerhouse is likely to be deceived by these White Zetsu clones. The White Zetsu's attack plan is actually very simple. A large number of White Zetsu clones will directly transform into the appearance of the ninjas in the Ninja Allied Forces. After all, the ninjas in the Ninja Allied Forces come from the 5 great ninja villages. Although they have a common goal with each other, after all, the time they have spent with each other is still too short, and they still lack a certain tacit understanding with their familiar and unfamiliar comrades. And this gap also provides an advantage for the White Zetsu clones' attack plan. They are not familiar with each other, but they have to cooperate, and some actions that may cause suspicion are naturally included in the scope of tolerance. In just a few minutes, under the invasion of the White Zetsu army, many ninjas in the ninja allied forces were directly killed by the white Zetsu clones. And with the passage of time, the number of ninjas killed in the ninja allied forces also snowballed. This time, unlike the surprise attack on the Cloud Village, the white Zetsu army has been allowed to kill. Like a group of hungry beasts, the white Zetsu clones are constantly nibbling the ninjas in the ninja allied forces from the outside. Although deliberately disguised, the smell of blood has become stronger with the increasing number of ninjas who have lost their lives. There is no lack of strong ninjas in the ninja allied forces. Before the war, they even set up a special force to sense the situation and scattered it all over the ninja allied forces. Enemy attack! Enemy attack! Enemy attack! Almost in the blink of an eye, the news of the white Zetsu's invasion has spread throughout the camp. After all, ninjas are a profession that exists specifically for combat. When such a situation occurs, they also react quickly. One by one, ninjas began to deliberately shrink towards the inside of the camp, and the ninjas from various villages who have been divided into combat units also immediately gathered. Melee unit, gather. As the leader of the melee unit, Kitsuchi's voice directly passed into the mind of every ninja in the melee unit. Through the effect of the spiritual force amplifier, Yamanaka Inoichi has been putting his hand on Kitsuchi's head, using himself as a medium to directly pass Kitsuchi's order to the mind of every ninja in the melee unit. Don't panic. The white Zetsu clones are invading us. According to the intelligence of the Cloud Village, although their stealth and transformation abilities are very strong, there are not many strong ninjas among them. Now, the melee unit immediately gather and use your ninjutsu to resist the white Zetsu army that has already revealed themselves. The perception unit and the special operations unit have already begun to move. They will do their best to find the white Zetsu clones mixed in the ninja allied forces. After a short strategic deployment, Kitsuchi nodded to Yamanaka Inoichi, who put his hand on his head. After all, he is the leader of the melee unit. He can't stay here. He needs to fight against the white Zetsu clones with his companions. Chapter 608. White Zetsu clones have already launched an attack on us. Although the melee forces and other ninjas are doing their best to resist, white Zetsu's transformation and stealth ability are indeed a major problem that can't be ignored. There are even powerful Jonin and elite Jonin among the white Zetsu clones. Now they have posed a great threat to our combat forces. According to incomplete statistics, we have lost nearly half of our ninjas. At the Ninja Allied Forces Command Headquarters, Yakage Assistant Officer Maibui from the Cloud Village of the Land of Lightning received the information from the front line, and after a short reading, he said to the Kages sitting in his chair, "Except for Terumi Mei, who is responsible for guarding the 5 major countries, the Kage from other villages are now here." Hearing Ma Bu-yi's words, everyone's eyebrows furrowed slightly. It's just the first contact at the beginning of the war, and the ninja allied forces have already suffered such a large loss? After looking at the other Kage sitting beside him, Gaara sat up from his seat and said to the other Kage, "Don't worry, Kage. It seems that if there is no strong way to deal with the white Zetsu army, we will definitely suffer more losses. It's better for me to go to the front line now. My sand release is extremely good at large-scale attacks. With the help of the ninja allied forces, I believe that we can definitely defeat the white Zetsu clones in a short time." Seeing Gaara stand up and make such a proposal, whether it's Watergate, AI, Anoki, or Nara Shikaku, they didn't show any surprise. After all, compared to everyone present, Gaara is still young, and he doesn't think clearly enough. "Kazekage-sama, you must calm down." Seeing the other Kage sitting in their seats, Nara Shikaku knew that it's time for him to step in. Standing up from his seat, Nara Shikaku walked to Gaara's side. His face with several scars was full of wisdom. "We are very clear about the real purpose of the Akatsuki. That is, to collect all the people of the Column Force and then summon the Jubi to pull the entire ninja world into the Tsukuyomi world. All of their actions are bound to unfold towards this goal, and we also have to think from this point of view." Gaara has to say that he is very convinced of Nara Shikaku's wisdom. After so many years of experience, Gaara, who was originally extreme and irritable, has become much more stable. When Nara Shikaku stood up to persuade him, Gaara suppressed his temper. When the Akatsuki attacked the Cloud Village, they deliberately controlled a large number of civilians and ninjas in the Cloud Village, but didn't take their lives. The living ninjas and civilians are actually a resource that needs to be protected. But now, why is Akatsuki massacring our ninjas? Although it can be explained that they hope to annihilate us and then defeat us. But if we think about it from another perspective, could it be that they are actually hoping to put some pressure on us through such a massacre? Hearing Nara Shikaku's words, Watergate's eyes flashed. Nara Shikaku's brief analysis almost instantly answered Watergate's doubts. But at this moment, Nara Shikaku had no time to observe Watergate's situation, but continued to explain to Gaara and even everyone who began to have doubts about the actions of the Akatsuki. The Akatsuki not only has a large number of White Zetsu army, but they also have a fearless Edo Tensei unit. If our high-end combat power, such as the Kage, really takes action, then the Edo Tensei unit of the Akatsuki will definitely take action. Currently, we still can't completely judge to what extent Akatsuki organization has used Edo Tensei, this powerful forbidden technique. Regarding all the enemies whose strength we can't completely judge, we have no choice but to use their strength to the greatest extent when we consider our strategy. Before thinking about victory, think about defeat first. This has always been Nara Shikaku's attitude. If our Kage-level powerhouses start to fight, then the enemy's Edo Tensei unit will definitely take action. Once the Edo Tensei unit of the Akatsuki has enough powerhouses to compete with Kage-level powerhouses, then all our high-end combat power will be restrained. At that time, not only our combat troops, but even our high-end combat power will fall into a bitter battle. In order to win, we will have to send Column Force, who is also a high-end combat power, to the battlefield. If the Akatsuki still has spare strength at this time, then Column Force won't be guaranteed. Yes, the important thing is not the victory and loss of one or two battles, but whether the Akatsuki's plan can be carried out smoothly. As long as they can prevent the Akatsuki from achieving their Eye of the Moon plan, even if the 5 great ninja villages really suffer heavy losses, it is not unacceptable. But if we don't fight now, our combat troops will really be scattered by the White Zetsu army. Then what should we do? Although Nara Shikaku's words are very reasonable, but also a problem that can't be ignored was raised by Gaara. After all, the battle is not a simple arithmetic problem. It involves the human heart and many more factors. Nara Shikaku naturally knows this situation, so he has not proposed an effective solution so far. Report. The acting leader of the medical unit, Haruno Sakura, requests an audience. It is obviously the critical moment of the war, but as one of the acting leaders of the medical unit, Haruno Sakura actually came to the Ninja Allied Forces command at this moment. Such a thing is almost beyond everyone's expectations. But as the 4th Hokage of the Wood Leaf Village, Watergate's face didn't have the slightest trace of astonishment. Instead, he was somewhat excited and gratified. Let her in. As the Kage of Haruno Sakura's village, Watergate directly said to the ninja who came to report. After a while, Haruno Sakura directly walked into the command center. After saluting to the several Kages, Haruno Sakura said to Watergate, "Reporting to Hokage-sama, the results of the White Zetsu skull you asked Master to study have appeared. Master has conducted a comprehensive analysis of the White Zetsu's transformation ability and stealth ability, and has produced a large number of drugs to suppress their stealth and transformation ability. I request that the drugs be distributed to stop the White Zetsu clones from attacking." Chapter 609. That's great. Hearing Sakura's words, almost everyone in the headquarters became excited. Just now, everyone in the headquarters was troubled by the problem of saving their strength. But at this moment, the acting leader of the medical unit, Sakura, gave everyone a perfect solution. But from Sakura Haruno's short words, it revealed some information. This kind of medicine was developed by Tsunade by studying the skull of a White Zetsu. Tsunade's own attainments in medical ninjutsu are naturally needless to say, but when did Konoha's ninja village obtain and decide to study the head of White Zetsu and even mass-produce a potion to suppress White Zetsu's ability? It seems that before the war began, Watergate already understood the influence of the white Zetsu clones on the battlefield, and asked Tsunade, who can be said to be the best medical ninjutsu in the world, to study the white Zetsu in advance. This kind of foresight is simply terrifying. Sakura! Watergate slowly stood up from his seat, and after exchanging glances with the other 3 Kages, he was ready to give an order to Sakura. Now, mobilize all medical ninjas in the medical unit who have the ability to protect themselves and start rushing to the battlefield with the medicine developed by Tsunade-sama, and at the same time, distribute the medicine to all combat units to restrain the white Zetsu clones. As long as the medicine can be successfully distributed and achieve the expected effect, then even if our top combat power doesn't attack, we can completely defeat the white Zetsu army with the strength of each combat unit. In Watergate's description, the battle against the white Zetsu army seems to be a victory. Not to mention others, at least as the temporary leader of the medical unit, Sakura's eyes were full of excitement. The first official battle of the 4th Shinobi World War will be won in her hands? Sakura couldn't help but be fascinated by this feeling of glory. Yes, we will win for the Shinobi world. Sakura took out the black gloves from her ninja tool bag and slowly put them on her hands. Sakura is not only an ordinary medical ninja, but also a ninja with great combat power under the guidance of masters like Nangong-je and Tsunade. After finishing her declaration, Sakura saluted Minato and the other Kages of the other villages and left the command center. Watching Sakura leave, the remaining 3 Kages and the 2 staff officers couldn't help but cast their eyes on Watergate. Anticipating the enemy's moves, controlling people's hearts. Is this the 4th Hokage of Woodleaf Watergate? Although he's not as powerful as Hashirama, who is known as the god of shinobi in the records of various villages, there's no doubt that the 4th Hokage is more scheming and will use more means than Hashirama. Such a person, if he's an enemy, must be eradicated first. If they can win him over, they must do their best to maintain a good relationship with him. But at this moment, although Minato couldn't completely crush the other Kage in terms of combat ability, it wouldn't be easy to take advantage of him. With Watergate's order, the medical team began to act quickly. The wounded were received by the medical team to prepare for rescue, and bottles of potions to suppress the ability of the white Zetsu clones were also distributed. Every ninja who received the potions couldn't help but show some excitement in their eyes. After all, every ninja has their own pride in their heart. The most important reason why the white Zetsu unit can compete with the allied ninja army formed by the 5 great ninja villages is that the white Zetsu clones have extremely powerful transformation and stealth abilities. This battle made most of the ninjas very angry. The more angry they are, the more disgusted they are with the enemy's disgusting ability. When they had the potions in their hands to restrain the enemy's advantage, the ninjas of the allied ninja army were also full of confidence. As long as it's a head-on confrontation, every member of the allied ninja army believed that they can defeat the white Zetsu clones. And the fact is indeed similar to what everyone in the allied ninja army expected. When the potions were distributed on a large scale, the white Zetsu clones were directly forced to break away from their transformation and stealth state under the effect of the potions. The naked and pale body of the white Zetsu clones directly appeared in the eyes of every member of the allied ninja army. Since the target has been determined, everyone has no possibility of holding back. A gorgeous ninjutsu directly attacked the white Zetsu clones in the allied ninja army. After suffering a wave of ninjutsu attack, the number of remaining white Zetsu clones immediately decreased. The close-range combat forces and mid-range combat forces in the allied ninja army all rushed forward, taking advantage of the fact that the white Zetsu clones hadn't reacted from the onslaught, and immediately rushed forward to strangle the remaining enemies. The battle is actually such a simple thing. Although there are various policies and strategies, in the final analysis, it's just one sentence: take advantage of your weakness. If the enemy's defense is too perfect, then you have to find a way to make the enemy have a flaw. Now, the potions provided by Tsunade for the allied ninja army were to create a gap in the seemingly flawless armor of the white Zetsu army. At this moment, the allied ninja army was like a beast that had been hungry for a long time and suddenly smelled blood. They ferociously and violently attacked the white Zetsu army. Although a large number of white Zetsu clones were destroyed, the allied ninja army also suffered a great loss. killing 1,000 enemies, not to mention losing 800, but at least 200 or 300. But for the current allied ninja army, the loss is not so important. What they need is not to care about temporary gains and losses. What they need is a spectacular victory, a full of glory, enough to make everyone believe that their side can win the final victory. This battle is the first official battle of the Fourth Shinobi World War. The impact of winning will be extremely far-reaching. So in order to win, what the Allied Ninja Army needs is actually very simple, that is, a victory that no one regrets even if they lose more. Chapter 6:10. There's a problem with our plan, and the attack of the White Zetsu army has been hindered. Black Zetsu stood beside Obito and described the situation on the battlefield at the moment. Black Zetsu just started talking, but Obito already put his hand in front of Black Zetsu. Obviously, he didn't intend to listen to Black Zetsu. At this moment, Obito's eyes had a Rinnegan that originally belonged to Uchiha Madara, and there's a strange connection between his eyes and the Geto Mazo. The clones of the White Zetsu were all born from the Geto Mazo, and now when Obito put all his attention on the White Zetsu army, he could feel the current state of the White Zetsu army with his Rinnegan. The large loss of the White Zetsu army was naturally perceived by Obito. It seems that the ninja allied forces have already noticed the weakness of the White Zetsu army and found a way to restrain the strange ability of the White Zetsu army. For Obito, all of this is actually a matter of time, although this time is indeed a bit too early. However, this situation didn't bring too much pressure to Obito. After all, the White Zetsu clones are actually consumables. As long as there is enough time and chakra, he can use the ability of the Geto Mazo to create more White Zetsu clones. It doesn't matter, the loss of the White Zetsu army is also within my expectations. Now inform Kabuto. It's time to let those who are deeply buried in the yellow earth see the light of day again. The defeat on the battlefield has made Obito decide to add the Edo Tensei army into the battle ahead of time. The fundamental purpose of this battle was to create enough pressure on the shinobi army composed of the 5 great shinobi villages. Although the Edo Tensei army entered the battlefield ahead of time, it was understandable. Understood? Black Zetsu looked deeply at Uchiha Obito, who was standing on the ground with indifference in his eyes. But in his heart, he also knew what Uchiha Obito was planning. Before the war, Uchiha Obito asked Black Zetsu to send a group of highly evolved White Zetsu clones to Kabuto. Through the short message sent by those White Zetsu clones before they died, Black Zetsu could roughly judge the strength of the current Edo Tensei army. But to be honest, these White Zetsu clones were summoned through the Edo Tensei. After all, they are existences between life and objects. Therefore, their power is limited a lot, and they can only use 70% to 80% of their strength. Although the nature of the Edo Tensei army is very difficult, as long as they can find a suitable method to seal the Edo Tensei army is the Edo Tensei. However, among these Edo Tensei, there was a huge bomb that Obito didn't notice. Yudo Madara. Black Zetsu doesn't know what Kabuto and Uchiha Obito are thinking. Even if Black Zetsu didn't deliberately guide Uchiha Obito and Kabuto, they still put their little abacus on Uchiha Madara, a peerless powerhouse. Perhaps in the eyes of Uchiha Obito and Kabuto, the Uchiha Madara they summoned is just a puppet with a powerful soul that they can control. A frog at the bottom of the well can't see the big sky. How strong Uchiha Madara is, Black Zetsu is actually the one who has the most right to say. Black Zetsu has been active in the darkness of the ninja world for countless years, and naturally he has seen all kinds of powerhouses, and Indra and Azura were also peerless powerhouses at that time. But even after such a long time, even after generations of reincarnations of Azura and Indra, the one who went the furthest and the closest to the Sixth Path Sage is Uchiha Madara. Such a person's life level has actually surpassed the ordinary life. As long as he is given the right opportunity, a peerless powerhouse like Uchiha Madara will definitely not be as simple as a puppet in the hands of others. But Black Zetsu won't say all this to Kabuto or Uchiha Obito, because in Black Zetsu's view, the person who can really resurrect his mother is not Uchiha Obito, who is now trying to become the column force of the Ten Tails. Obito's strength and talent is not enough, Uchiha Madara. who inherited Indra's chakra and is very close to the sixth path sage, is the best candidate. Haha, the shinobi world is a huge flower bed, and the people are like flowers, always showing their beauty in the flower bed. But what can the flowers in the garden know? I'm just a flower gazer strolling in the flower bed. Let me slowly appreciate their beauty. Mother, let me pick all the beautiful flowers in this garden for you one by one as a gift for your rebirth. Black Zetsu has already sneaked into the soil, but when no one can see him, Black Zetsu's face showed a pure smile, like a child who has just arrived in the world, pure and flawless. Let's start preparing. It's time to let the ninja allied forces see how powerful the power in our hands is. Black Zetsu's figure suddenly appeared beside Kabuto, who has been preparing the Edo Tensei in his studio, although it seems that he is very excited, showing his desire for victory. But Kabuto still felt a touch of contempt for all life from Black Zetsu. Kabuto also felt this feeling from Obito, but Black Zetsu's aura was stronger and more obscure than Obito's. If Black Zetsu was not as cautious when facing Kabuto compared to Uchiha Obito, even Kabuto can't guarantee that he can really discover the essence of Black Zetsu. You don't need to say more. I will naturally do what I have to do. The reason why after Kabuto joined Akatsuki's camp, he had always been at odds with Black Zetsu. The first reason was because after he joined Akatsuki's camp, he and Black Zetsu were in a state of mutual hostility and competition. The second reason is that Black Zetsu's mind is so deep that it is difficult for Kabuto to accept it, which makes Kabuto's heart full of tension. This was because the more scheming one was, the more ambitious one was. You're tuning in to the Legend of the Vagabond YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.